Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We're going to get into the UFOs hard and large tonight. Chuck Zukowski from UFOnut.com is here. It's going to be a great interview. Everything from UFOs, disclosure, cattle mutilations. We're going to get into it all tonight. But first, let us say hello to each and every one of you. Why? Because this is the way we start off this show. No better way to do it. Race fan in the gold medal position. Eternity eternal in the silver. Necessary dialogue with a bronze medal tonight. Paramarv, how you doing, buddy? 7:30, how you doing? Nice to see you. Kitty Cattywack, thank you so much for kicking off the Super Chat tonight. The Super Chat is a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. So thank you very, very much. T-Bone, my man, how are you? Mel WD-40 is here lubing us up for tonight's show, because you can't talk UFOs, aliens, and cattle mutilations without being lubed up. Mel, thank you for doing that. Don't forget to give yourself a little shot as well. Moving on down, we say hello to Robert Lamoth and Trucker Andrew. Thanks for coming on in. JSCO, nice to see you. Hi there, Road Flare. Good to have you here. Michael Morris, the attorney at large. Nice to see you. Mama Catherine. Mwah. Mama Catherine will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. And for an extra $6, you get a nice hug, too, just to put it out there. Everybody needs a Mama Catherine hug. I will say that. Guaranteed. Frankie B., how are you? Werewolf, nice to see you. Shane Gord, Honest Content, and Chris Irvin, nice to have you all here tonight. Number 44 in your program tonight, starting on defense, from Stockholm, Sweden, Lars Jansson. There he is. Jaquetta, nice to see you. Matthew Goodka, Thunderhead. How you guys doing? Thunderhead will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind. To the right of the studio. Thomas Frock, how are you doing, buddy? Nice to see you. As we continue on with our roll call here, let us say hello to Jeremy. Thank you for coming on in. Phyllis Boucher Perry, nice to see you. And who else do we have? Integrationing. Dunzel. And who is next? Mickey G. How you guys doing? Dead Jed and Pam Harris. Nice to see you both here to kick off your week. K17 Odd. Good to see you. As we scroll on down. Oob to Joe's Main. You've got aliens. Yes, you do. Don't even deny it. John Allen. Nice to see you. Mickey, thank you so much for that great super chat. We absolutely love your support of SOR, so thank you very, very much. And Andrew B., how you doing? Nice to see you. J-Truth, nice to see you. Ozzy, nice to have you here. And who is next? Well, it's Blackie. Welcome to SOR Chat. First time here. Thank you. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button because we are here 5 days a week, soon to be 7, by the way. And moving on down. Terry Mills, nice to see you. Tamisha, looking lovely tonight. And who else do we have here? We have, excuse me, not as much coughing tonight. The forest fire smoke is starting to die down a little bit. But, man, did we have a wicked lightning storm a couple hours ago. Holy cow, that was nuts. Walter Kochubinski, nice to see you. And Terry Hall and your gorgeous mustache, always a pleasure. And Shogun, nice to have you here. Let's get the radio side going, everybody. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott from UFOnut.com. Chuck Zukowski is here. We're going to break on down everything from UFOs, alien abductions, disclosure, cattle mutilations. It's going to be a very, very busy show, so sit back and relax. We're going to get going here in a few seconds. Skip to Malou, good morning to you in Denmark. Gear Jammers, nice to see you. And K17, thank you for that awesome super chat. We appreciate your love, buddy. Thank you. And who else do we have as time is winding on down? Longview Paranormal over on X, or Longhorn Paranormal, pardon me. Thank you for joining us. We are caught up. Do me a favor, everybody. Super chat is open. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show. And don't forget, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. So check it on out. Throw those horns up, everybody. It's that time of the night. Let's rock.
Are you ready to hear your mystic voice of the night?
It's time to wake up.
He's here. Shush. Be quiet. He's ready for you to listen. Let's point our ears towards the little cabin knows. We're together. It's time for Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott.
From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out Bumble, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Tonight's show is brought to you by Caribou Con. You got a month to get your tickets for Caribou Con, September 18th through 20th, right here in the heart of British Columbia. It's BC's only paranormal conference this year. Go to cariboucon.com and get your tickets today. Let's go flying in the sky, not by jets, not by airplanes, not by a cape like Superman. UFOs, that's where we're going tonight. Chuck Zukowski from UFOnut.com is here to break it all down for us. In hour number 3, Swamp Dweller will be here with another creepy story. Then it's the UFO Report. Grant Baker will be here to make sure we are updated on tranche number 5, which was released this past Friday. Chuck Zukowski is a longtime investigator of UFO and paranormal phenomena whose work has earned him appearances on numerous radio and television programs. His investigations and personal connection to the UFO mystery became the focus of best-selling author Ben Mezrich's 2016 book, The 37th Parallel: The Secret Truth Behind America's UFO Highway. The book became a New York Times bestseller and brought national attention to Chuck's research into strange encounters and unexplained activity. In 2019, Chuck took his investigations to television as the host of the Travel Channel's series Alien Highway, alongside his son Daniel and paranormal investigator Heather Taddy. We love Heather around here. Chuck traveled across the American Midwest investigating UFO sightings, mysterious encounters, and other unexplained phenomena. He also has a wonderful website that he operates called UFOnut.com. UFOnut.com, where he continues to document his research into what he calls unconventional flying objects. At least he's not a UAPer. This is old school ufology tonight. That's what we like. That's what we want. Because you can go look for UAPs. All you got to do is go outside your window and see birds. Those are UAPs. You see a kid walking around with a balloon? That's a UAP. Chuck's out for UFOs. Let's bring him on in. Chuck Zukowski. Welcome to Spaced Out Radio. First time, my friend. How are you?
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me on your show. Appreciate that. I do like old school stuff. I prefer to stick with UFO, although sometimes on the blog I'll say UFO/UAP for those that don't know what a UFO is.
Well,
But
a number of years ago, I hated the term UAP. I still do. I really like it, grinds my gears. But all of a sudden, I started talking to a few people on the inside. And I'd always had this feeling that, being a journalist, reading between the lines, Chuck, they always seem to mention UFO and UAP together. But it was the staunch people who were promoting this 2017 class of UApology, not ufology, UApology, that kept on pushing the UAP agenda. And that's when I started talking to people about it, and I just kind of learned from them. There's a big difference. You go on the inside, there is a big difference. That's why you'll hear generals say, we're looking for UFOs and UAP. The president has even used UFO and UAP because there is a difference. And not a lot of people want to realize that because UAP is the new cool. You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, I mean, and you and me, people like you and me, we're dinosaurs, man. We're dinosaurs still talking about that UFO stuff with little green men and flying saucers.
Well, that's why I'm known as the UFO nut. Years and years ago when I first started doing this, just over three decades, people were just calling me crazy. They were saying, "Oh, you're just some UFO nut," or and you're just, you don't know what you're talking about, basically. Well, who's laughing now? But I decided back then, and instead of being mad about it, just own it, right? If you're going to call me a UFO nut, fine, I'm a UFO nut. As long as I get the information out there on my website, it's a free website. I don't. There's no bling, nothing, for people to buy there. I don't make any money off of it, and I put all the information out there for free. And it's basically just stuff that I've learned through my investigations and from my research, and I put it out there. And I try not to persuade anybody to believe what I'm putting out there. It's, I put the information out for people to determine for themselves. Let them make their own decisions. I really don't like those type of people that, try to convince you and persuade you to think their way. I want you to think your way. I'm going to give you some information, and then you think about it and you decide whether I'm on the right track or not, or or what you believe. I think it's free thinking, old school stuff.
Why is this subject so important to you? What made you, because you're a professional man, you're an educated man, you have a very successful company that you run. Why put your nose on the line the last 20, 30 plus years to find out about UFOs?
I think, well, I've always been fascinated with paranormal, with UFOs, as far back as I can remember, 7, 8 years old. And I never really realized how much I really was involved in it until when I moved 26 years ago from California to Colorado. I was in Colorado for 24 years, and now this is our second year in Texas. That I saw some books that I had from the weekly reader series when I was in elementary school, and they focused on UFOs and ghosts and paranormal. And then as I got more mature and researching this as I got older, and even in high school, we used to mess around and yell UFO fact or fiction, and we throw stuff at each other because they knew that even in high school I was a UFO guy. But I had, as far as I can remember, I did have a sighting when I was really young, and I have to be honest with you that even now when I think about it, was I daydreaming? Was it actually a sighting? And it's hard to say when you're like 6 or 7. Because I really can't think back that far in detail, but I always remembered I did see something when I was quite young. And then as I got older, and after my family was started, it was a good opportunity for me to start focusing more on doing investigations, because before that it was all research. And then I started getting involved in investigations. And then I learned the more I got involved in investigations, my relatives would pop up and say, hey, we had this sighting, we had that sighting. And then I learned that my mom had she saw gray aliens when she was a little girl. And that she was just afraid to talk about it. But then, when her son started doing investigations and talking about research, she thought it was okay. Then I found out that, her older sister had seen the grays. So, there's a link there in our family. And, what guy's not going to believe his mom? Come on.
Very true.
People have gone to war because other people say, oh, I don't believe your mom. So, whatever mom said is true. So, I kind of started devoting that part of life. And luckily I married a woman, my wife, Tammy, that put up with all this stuff.
Okay. So for all the people out there who may not be in this field, how do you break down, you start dating your wife. I mean, she's your girlfriend at the time, you're courting her, you're kind of going through all of this. And how do you break down? And by the way, I chase UFOs for a living.
It was crazy. I mean, I was just out of high school. I was going to JC, and she was still in high school. I think she was a senior at the time. So we've known each other since high school. And I don't know. I think really the first time she ever saw me is I was doing wheelies on my motorcycle down the street. And she didn't even know what I looked like, because I had this full face. But it was that Fonzie syndrome, where she just sees this guy pulling wheelies on his motorcycle, and that's what got it started. And then after that, it just, I guess I don't actually remember the time we started talking about, or I started talking about UFOs. I think it was just one of those things that I always talked about, and she just accepted, and she's been on some investigations with me, and so she kind of let some, she's
Right.
I'm more analytical, so it helps. We're kind of like opposites. We're so opposite that I'm O positive and she's O negative. So that's how bad that is.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. I do want to ask, the love that you have for this subject is second to none. It really is second to none. The way it's blown up over the last, say, 5 years, especially. Did you ever think, looking back on your time as a longtime ufologist, that you would ever see UFOs as a lead story without the X-Files music, without the truth is out there, without the anchors making fun or laughing at this story, when you're seeing, major players go doing deep dives on this subject? I mean, what was that like for you seeing? Did you think we finally hit the pinnacle of the mainstream?
Yeah, I think it was. I knew that it was going to happen one of these days, and when our current president Trump, when his first term, he set it up where, the Pentagon would have to release papers within so many days, and it took a non-politician president to, for us to do that. Now, there was talk with Clinton, there was talk with Carter, and Reagan talked about his UFO sightings that he had, but none of our previous presidents actually took the initiative to get the ball rolling. Now, maybe it's because we were more in the social media stage of this current environment. It's a lot harder now to keep suppressing information to the public when everybody's got they got a camera and they have a video, or capability of recording. And so I think it was a good time for it. And regardless of what people think about our current president, the one thing that's very positive about him is the fact that he's officially started the ball rolling on this, regardless of the politics side. Back in the day, I'd have to be 25, I have to be 30 years ago, when with Stephen Greer pushing disclosure. He was one of the first guys that I knew when I lived in California, and I had lectured with him way back then. One of the MUFON, lectures that we did, and so I got to see some of his original pictures and information on UFOs before he went to Congress the first time to release it. And I was there with a couple of other investigators just to look over the pictures and look over the data information he had to see if it was, it was good enough. It was phenomenal what he had back almost 30 years ago. And it just that upsets me that information, I still haven't seen that. The stuff that I saw that he has not been released from the Pentagon. Matter of fact, the most recent Pentagon release that just happened in Colorado Springs in 2023, there was I think it was 2023. If I might have wrote that down, there was a triangular sighting, like a black triangle sighting, and if 2023, I was there in 2023, and but you would have to be outside staring at the sky all night to catch this stuff. I mean, he had a camera. I mean, if he had a cell phone, he would have a camera with him. I don't understand why he wouldn't at least try and get a picture or something like that. But that it just happens if you don't have your phone with you, then just experience it and remember it. But what I want to say about that triangle is I actually interviewed two other people, or two other cases with black triangles flying near Colorado Springs. One was in 2014. I just jotted it down here, where it was a father and his two kids basically saw the same thing that this person saw in 2023 over Colorado Springs. And then in 2017, canine field trainers, they're training the dogs for law enforcement. They were out in an open area just outside of Colorado Springs, just into the county. And they had 4 dogs with them. And I know you were telling me a story about dogs earlier, and dogs are very, very intuitive to what's going on around them. And they stopped for a second when they were training their dogs to, I don't know, take a break. And then they noticed the dogs just stare in one direction, and then they all turn at the same time. And so, of course, the law enforcement individuals turned too, and there was a triangle up there. And they watched it motionless for a few minutes, and then it just shot right off. Now, they couldn't go public with this because it was years ago, because of the giggle factor and the fact that law enforcement couldn't talk about, airline pilots couldn't talk about UFOs because they could get terminated. I got terminated from being a volunteer deputy sheriff for 8 years for releasing more information about, horse mutilation, UFOs in my own county. They told me to suppress it. And I told them to, take a hike, and they didn't like that. So it's interesting you talked about the X-Files, because they called me the Mulder of El Paso County at the time, because I was a deputy and I was investigating UFOs, on my personal side. But I got to tell you, Dave, I would have marshals, state patrol, county, city. They would come over to me and they would tell me their personal stories, because these guys are out all the time and they see things, and they tell me all their personal stories. And they said, well, please don't repeat that publicly, and don't use my name, because they were afraid to talk about it.
Well, you can't blame them. You don't know what the ramifications are.
Well, I personally know what the ramifications were. It was the only job I've ever been fired from, and it was a volunteer job.
We got 5.5 minutes to go. Chuck Zukowski is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. What do you think of this disclosure movement? You have Robert Bigelow coming out just recently, and I had been saying this for years, and I finally felt vindicated, Chuck, not to, pat my own back here or anything, but basically saying we're in a confirmation movement, not a disclosure movement. And I don't know where this is going. At one time, I thought I did. I'm not sure anymore. Where do you think this is going?
I wouldn't trust Robert Bigelow with as far as I could throw a flying saucer. I've dealt with Robert Bigelow in the past numerous times. He has his own agenda. So whatever Robert Bigelow says, there's something. I mean, we found out in 2017 that he was being funded by the Pentagon for doing UFO, investigations research. It goes way back. I ran, I crossed paths with him way back when I was assistant state director for Colorado MUFON, and when we started the STAR team program, which was the rapid response team for MUFON, and I was one of the first STAR team members. And I had learned, and Robert Bigelow popped up from Bass and said, that Robert Bigelow is going to fund the STAR team, get us all kinds of goodies and a rapid response kit. And we never got to see the kit, but how Bigelow was going to work with the STAR team is we would, you would get an investigation or come in or sighting come into MUFON, and then if the sighting was really good, there was alien or involved or UFO involved, something to touch down, then MUFON would send that to Robert Bigelow, and then he would determine if it would be a STAR team, and then they would fund the STAR team to go and investigate it. Well, that was fine. Matter of fact, my investigation of Mike Duran cattle mutilation outside of Trinidad was the very first STAR team investigation for MUFON. And I put together a quick team, including Alejandra Rojas was on my team. And we did the investigation. I paid, for the lab reports and everything. And then when I submitted it to MUFON, Bigelow denied it because there wasn't a flying saucer touchdown somewhere, or a UFO didn't touch down. So, so everything that I paid for came out of my pocket. And at that point, that's when I decided, I'm going to separate my investigations from MUFON completely. And I did. And I later left MUFON because of other issues. But I found out that Robert Bigelow at the time was working with someone within the government. And then the head of MUFON at the time, I forget his name, but, we sat down together, and then he agreed that that was the case. I thought it was the CIA, and it wasn't until 2017 we found out it was the Pentagon. But I also crossed paths with him back in 2000 when I did a press release in Roswell about a piece of debris that I found at the Roswell debris site. I did the initial analysis on it. It was an aluminum alloy, and I was looking for a lab. And so I did a press release, and who do you think popped up and said, yeah, my lab will check it out? Robert Bigelow, Bass. So I had a small piece cut off and sent to him. I didn't send the whole piece to him. And within 1 week, I got an email back from Bass stating that it was an unknown polymer. Okay, I'm going, wow, great. I knew it was an alloy. But it's an unknown polymer. And I said, so what's next? And they said isotope analysis. I'm going, awesome. And that was the last I heard of them. For almost a year, they wouldn't respond back to me. Oh, someone else is doing this. Oh, we don't know yet. Blah, 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 blah. And then a year later, I finally get a report coming back from them that says, oh, it was nothing. So I don't trust the guy. Not at all.
There's a lot of selfishness in this field, don't you think?
Yeah, I think it's more than that. I don't think it's selfishness as it's productivity. It's business. Now, Robert Bigelow bought the Skinwalker Ranch in Utah for what, $200,000-$300,000. And then he used it as much as he could. And then he turned around and sold it for what, almost $4 million? What was it? Somewhere around there?
Somewhere like that.
Something like that. Now, I'm not a Skinwalker Ranch fan because I've been there with Alien Highway, and I've talked to the locals there, and Skinwalker isn't all that. The majority of the stuff on the TV show is manipulated, and I know for a fact it is because the offshoot, show Beyond Skinwalker, they contacted me and they wanted to mimic one of my episodes from Alien Highway and wanted to know exactly what I did. And they were copying me. And I talked to my showrunner and he says, don't do it. They'll just, because they'll manipulate your show. And I said, yeah, absolutely not. They can't do it. So I don't like the guys.
Hold that thought. We're going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. From UFOnut.com, Chuck Zukowski is here, longtime ufologist, good guy in the field. and just tells it like it is.
Mm.
More UFO talk when we return on Spaced Out Radio. All right, we're clear. Good start. Did you mute yourself?
I did. When you told me to be quiet, I muted myself.
You get it. You get it. Thank you.
I get it. Yeah. 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 I like just being able to talk. I mean, and then that'll be it about Bigelow. But yeah, it's when you cross paths with a billionaire and I'm a hundredaire, I have a couple of $100 here and a couple $100 there. Yeah.
Oh, that's more than me. I'm a 10-air. I'm a radio host, man.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, well, when you're consulting like I do, the jobs come and go. So I could be on a job for 6 months, 4 months, 2 months, and then nothing for 6 months.
Yeah.
But that's playtime, 6 months. But then you're still like, okay, I gotta get money coming in. Microchip industry is kind of up and down. Sort of like the elevator industry, right?
Yeah. Like the radio industry. Big down right now.
I don't know. I think it's from what I've seen on YouTube with the live podcast. I think it's very, very beneficial right now. It's one of the few things in social media. I wish that people would just stay the heck off of TikTok and focus more on live podcasts. They'll actually learn something.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I would agree.
Instead of watching someone run and trip and fall and they laugh at them,
Oh, come on. Senior citizens falling and children falling. That's good, high quality video right there.
God, I tell you. Yeah, my in-laws were like all into that America's Funniest Videos. Some old lady get out of the bus and her like knickers fall down or something, and she falls and they're all laughing. I'm going, that could somebody's grandmother. You're laughing.
Right.
That's why I knew that I was my wife's family was perfect for me.
We got about 3 minutes here.
Oh, okay. My 37th parallel. I noticed your Bigfoot now. Here's.
Nice.
Yeah, that's in Patterson. That's a direct copy from the original year before the famous Bigfoot.
I'll show you. Here's one that we found this year. Our problem is the ground up here. We've been in a drought for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Our ground is very tough. We can't cast here.
Right. I know exactly.
This was back in May. Now, my buddy whose foot is beside this is a monster of a man. He's 6'5", about 400 pounds, and he wears a size 16 shoe.
Oh my God.
So this is his print beside the Sasquatch print.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's the same thing in Colorado. Because of the needles and everything else and the vegetation, you can't get a casting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
one of my investigations was on finding Bigfoot.
I was out at my spot last night and I don't know what the hell was in the forest, but we were only there for about 2 hours and all of a sudden it was like, leave now.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
There was something troubled in there. Hillbilly Herb, how are you? Nice to see you. Pap, you're looking very unattractive tonight. Good to see you. Not really, but I have to be polite. Real Alien Encounter. How are you? Let's see here. Anybody else I'm missing? Quickly here, big thank you tonight to our super chatters, T-Bone, Kitty, JSCO, Mickey, K17, and Matthew. We really appreciate the love and support. Bill Sardellis, how you doing? Nice to see you. Hi there, Magnus Vermagnuson. Nice to have you here. And we're about 28 seconds from launching back here. All right, 10 seconds. And here we go, Bill, or Chuck, sorry.
Hi, Bob. Call me whatever you want. It's fine.
Here we go with the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We appreciate you tuning us on in as we have Chuck Zukowski from UFOnut.com hanging on out with us. Before we bring Chuck back on, we want to remind all of you that if you miss portions of this show or others, always check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. From UFO Nut, Chuck Zukowski is here. Right before the break, Chuck, we were talking about disclosure, Robert Bigelow, Skinwalker Ranch. Getting back to the disclosure movement here for a second. Do you believe that we are close? Do you believe that it's right around the corner, closer than it's ever been?
I think so. It seems like every time we get close, something major happens in the world. We were pretty close in around 2019 and COVID hit. I mean, we really were. There was a lot going on. There was hearings. I should say Senate hearings, even back then, and then COVID hit. And then it seemed to be getting close again, and then there's the Iran fiasco. And I'm wondering, is that on purpose? Is this a pattern? I mean, it's just life. But the fact that they're still releasing information is pretty good. It's pretty good, and I think we're pretty close. And the reason I think so is because the generation today, the younger generation's already accepted the fact that there's intelligent life outside this planet. Now, whether or not it's visiting the planet, that's one thing. But I had a physicist once tell me years ago that the probability of life existing, the probability of intelligent life existing outside this planet is greater than the probability of intelligent life existing on this planet. And thinking, well, is he saying that everybody on this planet is stupid? No. Basically, he was saying that the percentage is a lot higher that life has started outside this planet than the probability and the percentage that life actually started on this planet the way that life was created. So that was kind of like, kind of an eye-opening thing for me, because I'm going, yeah, oh my gosh, because we really don't know a lot about space. We as humans have a problem with the word infinity, and I have a problem with that. And it's really hard to really nail that down. How can you think of, and people use it loosely? Oh, there's an infinite amount of this. Do you really know what infinite is, what infinity is? It goes on forever and never and never and never. The best telescope we ever put out in space is never going to see the end of space. Never.
Right.
Because the end of space will just be beginning of another space, and that's just the way it is. So there's an infinity amount of life planets that are harboring life, because there's an infinity. Actually, I like to say that there's infinity amount minus some variable of life existing on planets, because there's an infinity amount of stars out there. So, but I think the younger generation is already kind of accepted that life exists, and the probability that life is visiting this planet is really good. And it's making it a little bit easier for people like you and me to have these conversations without them calling us crazy.
I'm going to hit you with an easy but hard question here. Do you really want disclosure?
Yes. If you asked me that 20 years ago, it might have been, I don't think the public's ready yet. But I've seen a lot in the past 5 years, people a little more, especially younger generations, they're more relaxed with religion. Not all of them, but I mean, majority of them, where if something comes out saying that life exists outside this planet, it's okay with the religious beliefs to believe that that's the case. So we can push that aside and not have to worry about that.
Right.
And I think they're smart enough to know that yeah, the probability of life existing is good. And then, like I said, we have social media now, so it's really hard to suppress information. If people see an object, they're gonna film it. The problem we have now, though, is unfortunately are the tricksters out there, the pranksters that I want to put this video out on YouTube or wherever, TikTok or whatever, and make money off of it. And so I'm going to manipulate and create a UFO and go, ooh. And so I always tell people that when I lecture that if you happen to see a little clip on the internet where someone just happens to be looking in the sky and you just happen to pick up a UFO and a UFO just happens to do something crazy and it just happens within about a 6 to 8 second scenario, just disregard it. Because most of the AI generated stuff is within 8 to 10 seconds. If you want to AI generate stuff longer than that, then you got to pay a little bit of money for their generator. But the freebie stuff, the easy stuff to get a hold of is usually 6 to 10 seconds.
Do you think, though, that the public truly is ready now?
Yeah, I think so. I think even my in-laws, they both passed, unfortunately. But yeah, my dad, was he's very old school, and he always knew that aliens or UFOs existed. Of course, my mom knew firsthand. So I come from a family where, and it was a Christian family, and it was okay. I do remember, so out of elementary school, it turned out to be like babysitting, but after elementary school, a catechism bus for those people out there that are Catholics, there's a bus would pick you up after school and take you to the church, and then you go to catechism, which is, religious studies, and then your mom and dad would pick you up after they get off of work, from catechism. And I used to get in trouble all the time, and I'll never forget. I mean, and yes, the nuns would smack your hands with the ruler or with this, those pointy sticks. Yeah, because they would talk, and I mentioned this because I mentioned this before because it's one thing that I remember that always sticks out. I forget what the nun was saying. She was teaching some class or whatever, and I said no. I said it's bigger than that. She goes, well, this is what it says, and I went, no, it's bigger than that. Life is bigger than this. It's bigger, and that's all I can remember. And I'm talking, first grade. And I'm telling her, I said, no, it's bigger. There's more to this. That's not it. It's bigger. And I don't know why I knew that, but I always remember that. And then I got confronted. I got in trouble, of course, but because I was back talking a nun. But even then, I knew. Now today's generation, yeah, and you can thank people like Spielberg, who introduced publicly in the movies gray aliens, and that was part of the disclosure we think started because J. Allen Hynek was a technical advisor for Close Encounters, but he didn't introduce the concept of grays. Grays have been around since Roswell, and then Betty and Barney Hill in the early 60s. He just brought it more out to the public, and then the recent film Disclosure. So he's still, out there, basically just kind of priming, getting people in that mode to think about it. And people can say, "Oh, it was a good movie, it was a bad movie." I saw the movie; it was okay. I like it, but it didn't matter. It wasn't. It wasn't the actual. It was more of the concept of the movie to make people think, not so much the detail. And you could pick details apart on any movie, but it was more like, "Hey, getting the information out."
Getting to alien abductions, because that has seemed to be something in this whole disclosure process that we've seen the last number of years that has really been pushed to the wayside. We don't get good stories like Travis Walton or Betty and Barney Hill or Calvin Parker or the Andreasen family anymore. Do you think that's because of social media that it's so prevalent that we don't get these cases, or do you think that maybe the aliens just aren't interested in big named abductions anymore?
Well, I think some of the abduction stuff is not going public. I think it's still happening, but not as much. It's like cattle mutilations. I haven't seen anything come out on cattle mutilations from the Pentagon, and they've been going on since '67. Matter of fact, there was a mutilation case in the late 1800s in Missouri. So it's been going on for a long time. Yet I have seen nada come out of, and we've had over 10,000 cases based on what George Knapp had said years ago, 10,000 cases. And out of all the cases, no one's ever been caught, convicted, or tried or anything, no human evidence. So I haven't even seen that. Now, I have personally worked on abduction cases. One of my biggies that I regret is the Stan Romanek. I was the personal investigator for Stan Romanek, if you know who he is.
Yes.
Yeah, and then of course what happened to Stan afterwards. But it's actually pretty good. Not that I'm defending Stan, but for people who don't know, he basically was an abductee, and then he exploited it big time because he fell in love with the attention. And he fell in love with people giving him money and all kinds of cool stuff that he was making stuff up. And at the time I was investigating and his stuff, all the really cool stuff that was happening to him never happened when I was around, just his friends. But, when I was around, and it was because he knew that he couldn't pull anything over on me, basically. So anyway, I think ultimately what happened to him, and for those people that don't know, there was, he was caught with child pornography on his computers, and SWAT came in basically and just in the house. And I was contracting in California at the time, and I got a call from his wife saying, "Oh, what do we do? What do we do?" And I'm going, "There's nothing you can do. If they got a warrant and they're in there." And I think the information that he was gathering, I don't think he was that type of a person. I think that information he was getting on the internet was to help him with his lie of having these star children, and because he had photographs of them. And I never got to see any of the photographs. Everybody else did, but I never got the chance to critique them or anything. But so I think he was pulling photographs off the internet, manipulating it to make look like little children of his. And I mean, for gosh sakes, people were the millionaire was making payments on their house and bought him a van. I mean, he was doing good. And then he had, he was all over the place. Then you have the Travis Waltons. Now, Travis Walton, I've lectured with him numerous times, and he's one guy. He is true abductee down. Now, he wasn't an abductee to the case where he was taken. He was taken, but he wasn't taken on purpose. It was an accident. So if anybody, look up the Travis Walton incident and you'll know what I'm talking about. So he got hurt during a sighting and he was taken and they fixed him. But the cool thing is I think at least six polygraph tests, and he's passed them all. And even the other workers around him have passed their polygraph tests. No one's ever failed a polygraph test. Yet you don't hear about that from disclosure. Maybe it's because that right now they're easing in. they're easing in with the easy UFO sighting stuff, and no hardcore pictures yet. They have them. They have them. Oh, you bet you have them. They have them, but they're easing it in, and they're looking at what the public's doing, and they're looking at the response. And it may take a year or two, but who knows? But at least they're releasing this stuff. Artist rendition of this black triangle over Colorado Springs. Yeah, I understand that. But maybe there was a picture, and they didn't want to release it. I don't know. But I think they're just slowly releasing the information so we don't get hit hard. Abductions, scary, very scary. I stopped doing them, and for two things. It became a liability, not only a liability to me, but also a liability where you can be sued. If someone was truly abducted, and they say, "Can you help me? I was abducted." The first thing that I learned way back then is to say, "Go to a doctor." If you've been truly abducted by an alien, you believe so, you don't talk to me. Go right to your doctor, get a complete physical and a blood work done and your analysis, and see if anything is wrong. Because if you were abducted by an alien, who knows what they did to you? So you're going to make sure you're fine. And if because UFO investigators, we've become, over the years, we become psychiatrists a lot of times, and we're not professional, but no one will listen to these people talk about their incidences, their sightings. They're afraid to go to someone, a professional, because they'll laugh at them or they think they're crazy or whatever. So they come to people like me and they say, "You won't believe this, da 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 da," and I said, "I believe you." And I don't laugh at them. And then not only that, but if I've heard of other cases that are very similar, I said, "I've actually investigated something that's very similar to your case." And now there's affirmation where they're going, "Oh, other people have seen that too. It's not just me." So when they walk away after I've talked with them, they're feeling better because they know it's just not them. They know that they're not the only target, or they're being targeted. It's more like random things in some cases, other times it's not, but interesting.
Chuck Zukowski is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio from UFOnut.com. I want to go back to Stan Romanek here for a second, because to me, and let me explain why. December 15th, or pardon me, wrong date, 2015. It was 2015. I had an incident where I actually had an alien at my window while I was broadcasting this show. And it was a giant head. I nicknamed him Carl because he needed a name. So I just nicknamed him Carl. Do you believe that video of the famous video of Romanek's where the gray alien was at the window, or do you think that was staged?
When I first saw it, it was really good. I thought it hit me. And then the more I looked at it, now you got to remember, I think Romanek was a software engineer, right? I believe.
I don't remember.
Yeah. So he had the background to be able to do that. So it was a 50-50 for me. Why? Because I've never seen a gray alien. What am I know? So, and one of the things with me is every one of my investigations, I try to debunk it before I actually say it's a UFO. Why? Because a lot of the UFOs, UAPs, they can be, verified that it's not an actual UFO. The majority of them can. So you have to attack everything very analytical, and you have to attack everything and prove, like the famous Roswell rock. If you know about the Roswell rock, that was my investigation. It took a year to try to prove that the Roswell rock was not bought somewhere. And after that is when I did a press release on that in Roswell. But so you spend some time and try to prove it. And I'm proving to myself too. Because if I can prove to myself that I can't find any reasons behind that. Now with the Stan Romanek video, I looked at that and thinking, but later on when I caught him manipulating evidence, then I went back to that, which means it made that video less valid, because now it could have been perfectly valid. And he didn't manipulate anything until later on in life because he was loving the attention. But like Stanton Friedman would say, I just leave that one in my gray box. I don't throw it away, or gray basket. I think he used to say gray basket. Just leave it in my gray basket to go back to later.
So jury's still out.
Jury's still out. Yes.
4 minutes to go. A lot of people recently, over the last couple of years, have been really going hard at Travis Walton and whether or not his case was real. Stephen Pierce, who was in the truck that day, has been a guest on this show a couple of times, and including the 50th anniversary of it happening. And he tends to believe that, I love Steve. I think he's a great guy, but I think in just the way he explains things, he's a little confused, because he admits he saw the light. He admits he saw Travis go flying back. He admits that they drove down, and his story is incredible. But to say he's now thinking because Dallas had told him that that was American technology a few years ago, that he thinks that Travis has made it all up for money. What do you think?
Well, like I said before, they all passed their polygraphs. So he passed a polygraph with the lights and Travis being knocked down, which Travis said what happened to him, and so everybody's stories worked. I can tell you this though, and it's going to blow your mind, okay? Because I've been doing this a long time, and I've learned some things, and I've had my own aha moments. UFOs, the lights on UFO, the flashes of light. When you're talking about, okay, I saw the flashlight and he fell down and stuff, and then other people say, well, this that it was our technology. A light bulb, and I'll just use this one right here. Well, I was trying to turn my light on my phone, but of course it's not working. But anyway, I'll just say the light on my phone. All right, that light reflects. All right, so if I flash a flashlight out, it's going to reflect on the ground. It's reflect. True UFOs, the lights do not reflect. The light that we're receiving does not reflect on the ground. Okay, there was a Highland, Illinois. I think it was around 2000. I was doing a show called Unexplained Files Season 2. I had my own episode called Paranormal Highway of America. And I interviewed a cop in Highland, Illinois that saw the big triangle back then, which I hadn't seen come out of the Pentagon paper yet. And he was standing underneath it while looking at it. And he said, it was bright, 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 bright. And I said, you were staring right in it? He goes, yeah. I said, did it light up the whole area? He goes, I don't remember because I was so, entranced with this light. And I said, but you're standing next to your patrol car, because I was a deputy at the time when I was talking to him. And so it must have lit up your decals and stuff. He said, no, it was completely dark, completely black. I said, all that light coming from that giant triangle, 2 stories high, the whole area was dark. He goes, yeah. And then it hit him that the light he was seeing was not conventional light. I have another investigation that I could never release because it was minors that happened to kids, not actual minors, and where they confronted a ball of light. Some people call them orbs. I don't call them orbs. Orbs are more spiritual. These are balls of light. These are mechanical, and they walk up to it, and it's bright, 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 bright white. Yet it doesn't reflect any light on the person. It doesn't reflect any light on the ground. So the light, think of it as more of a black hole, where we see the light, but the light's being sucked in. Okay. So in the cases with the UFOs, and that's one of the things I ask people, yeah, this big UFO, I saw it, and it was so bright, and I had to look, and I'm thinking, okay, that could be what he saw or she saw. That might be reverse engineering stuff. But if you stare and you see a bright UFO and it's dark and it doesn't light up the whole area, that is ET. So Travis Walton, Not everything is reverse engineering, but there is stuff that's reverse engineering.
And on that note, Chuck, I'm going to get you to hold on right there. Hard to believe we're already through 1 hour with you tonight, Chuck. This has been absolutely amazing. When we return from the break with Chuck Zukowski from UFOnut.com, let's get into cattle mutilations. What are they? Why are they happening? And do aliens like a good steak as much as you and I? This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott. Knowing the aliens, they probably like them well done. Just saying. Chuck, we got about 5.5 minutes. We're just going to play a little video here, okay?
Okay, sounds great. Hope I'm not getting too intense in this.
No, you're doing beautiful. Keep it up.
Okay.
Our merch is Bigfoot approved. We have t-shirts, we have mugs, we have hoodies, we have socks, we have hats, we have stickers, and so much more. Whatever you're looking for, we have you covered. Why just be a fan of the paranormal when you can buy Spaced Out Radio merch and look the part? Our merch ain't ugly, folks. Check out the Spaced Out Radio store. Find the link in the description below.
Lurking within the forested region of the 108-mile ranch, where the worlds of the normal and paranormal collide. CaribouCon is waiting for you, bringing together a panel of renowned experts in the paranormal, cryptid research, and UFO phenomena fields. Get ready for a spine-tingling weekend in the heart of British Columbia. Enjoy fascinating discussions, presentations, tours of local haunted areas, and skywatching. Learn from investigators, authors, and enthusiasts who explore everything from ghost hunting techniques to sightings of Sasquatch and beyond. Whether you're a seasoned paranormal researcher or just love a good spooky story, this is your chance to connect with fellow enthusiasts in one of BC's most mysterious areas. Tickets are on sale now. Grab yours before they're gone. Visit cariboucon.com for details, tickets, and updates.
Are you ready to dive into the weird and wonderful world of cryptids, cartoons, and chaos? Meet Dirty Filth, Spaced Out Radio's resident cartoonist and master of the mysterious. Every Saturday at 2 p.m. Pacific, join him live on the Spaced Out Radio YouTube channel for Cryptid Cartoons with Dirty Filth, a hilarious hour where he sketches bizarre beasts, shares mind-bending stories, and battles his mischievous cats. Whether you're a UFO enthusiast, paranormal fan, or just love quirky art, Dirty Filth filters the universe through his unique lens, creating cartoons that capture the strange, dark, and supernatural. Follow Dirty Filth on X at Filth1 or Facebook at Dear Filth for more filthy fun. Find his link in the description below.
Spaced Out Radio wants to hear from you. We love our community, and your voice truly matters. Drop a comment after every show and let us know what you thought. Agree with our guests? Tell us why. Disagree? We want to hear that too. We read every single comment. Jump into the live chat during the broadcast and be part of the conversation in real time. Got a killer topic idea? Your suggestions help shape the show. And if you want to take it even further, join our Patreon for bonus content and direct feedback opportunities with Dave and the team. This is your show as much as it is ours. Whether you're a longtime listener or brand new, we want your thoughts, your questions, and your ideas. And let's keep building this incredible community together. Spaced Out Radio, where the conversation never ends. What are you waiting for? We're listening.
With 5 explorable Gold Rush-era buildings said to be home to spirits of a time forgotten, the 108-mile heritage site in the heart of BC's Caribou region offers a unique opportunity for thrill seekers and history buffs. For an evening of historical fun, step into our guided ghost tours, where spine-chilling stories of Gold Rush legends and unexplained encounters come alive. For those craving even more, inquire with us about conducting a hands-on paranormal investigation of your own. And if you're truly brave, book our haunted sleepovers. Spend the night at our B&B inside the McNeil House to truly experience this historical landmark and its ghostly secrets firsthand. For booking or inquiries, go to haunted108.com.
All right, we bring Chuck back in. We got 30 seconds to go here. And 20 seconds, my friend. Ten seconds. And here we go. Let's kick off hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. So good to have you with us. If you're into UFOs, this is a show for you. Chuck Zukowski from UFOnut.com is our guest tonight. Before we bring Chuck back on, we want to say hello to all of you listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Skewering is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's bring in Chuck Zukowski, his website, UFOnut.com. Chuck, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. Hey, I noticed on the chat someone mentioned what I thought about Kecksburg, and I think Kecksburg sighting is a good sighting. It was a good event because we were in London earlier this year, and the Rendlesham Forest incident had happened there. Someone there was saying that it was very similar to the Kecksburg, so I just wanted to throw that out there. Okay, go ahead.
Not a problem. Not a problem. Cattle mutilations. You were known for your research into this weird phenomena where people will come up to cattle. They will be deceased. They will be like, I hope I don't say this wrong, cut with laser-like precision that a normal hand with a knife could not do. You've been studying this a long time. Number one, what are cattle mutilations and why are they important to the UFO phenomena?
Well, yeah, I've been studying this for a while. Believe it or not, I am the leading cattle mutilation investigator in North America. Actually, that's what they say. As Google says, at least in the U.S. I'm not quite sure about Canada. But Christopher O'Brien, I was competing with him, but unfortunately, Chris passed away a little bit ago. And Linda Moulton Howell's not really doing anything anymore. Matter of fact, I'm trying to still work on a mute case that happened out here in Texas a few years ago, and they've got where 6 animals were mutilated, and the sheriff's department refuses to release information from that, and I kind of have an idea why. But real quick with cattle mutilations, the very first one that went public was in 1967, Snippy the horse, over near Alamosa. And actually, Snippy wasn't the horse. Lady was the horse that was mutilated. Snippy, the reporter got it wrong. But you can go back to, I think you go 1896. I think I mentioned it, or I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, but 1896 in Missouri. This was out of Fate magazine. There was a case where a rancher had seen the like a craft or something hovering over the field where the cows were, and it scared him so bad. I mean, they didn't know what was going on. So he, grabbed the family, went in the house and boarded up the house and stood in the front door of the house and inside with a gun, to protect the family. Went out the next day and there were some animals that were found dead and they were void of blood. And that was in 1896. So when people talk about, and of course, Snippy was like in 67. So when people talk about, oh no, it's military, it's this or that, not when you go back to 1896. Someone that said, well, the special forces, was doing it. It's not the case. It's been going on. And if you talk to Native Americans, and I've been so lucky to talk with Ute Native Americans that are, the elders, Navajo elders and Apache elders, and they all talk about the mutilations. It's in their culture. So it's been going on for a long time. Now, have there been UFOs seen near mutilations? Absolutely. Absolutely. About half of the investigations I've done, the ranchers have seen strange lights, number one. A couple of cases, craft. More is just strange lights, balls of light. Now, real quick, I just want to talk about balls of light. So
Sure.
when you in ufology, it's not orbs. And I had this conversation plenty of times with Heather. Go, Heather, when we're doing a UFO investigation, don't say orbs, say balls of light. And the reason why is because orbs are, because I've done ghost investigations too. When I was trying to understand abduction cases, I had to learn how to do ghost investigations, and I went out with ghost investigators, and then I did some on my own because I needed to differentiate the difference between what could be a ghost or haunting and what could be an abduction or an alien. And so you have to learn that firsthand. You just, you can't read this stuff. You got to experience this stuff firsthand to really understand it. So in ghost investigations, people see orbs, which are spiritual. It's spiritual lights. It's energy, but it's intelligent energy, and it's spiritual. The balls of light go back to the late 40s, mid 40s with the Foo Fighters.
Right.
Our airmen and even the Japanese pilots would see these balls of light following, their bombers or following their fighters. And the Americans, they nicknamed the Foo Fighters based on a comic book at the time. So, where there's food, there's fire. So they call them the Foo Fighters. And that's mechanical. Think of those as more like space probes, like what we send out, but they're around everywhere. And that's what I was telling you about. What they give off light, it doesn't reflect, right? It's like it consumes the light. We see it as light. We can take pictures. It comes as light, but it doesn't reflect light. So I've had multiple ranchers see balls of light. I've had see lights off at a distance, usually before a mutilation, even after mutilation. So what is a mutilation case? A mutilation is basically an animal is in location A. Okay. And I'm looking at the screen to make sure my hand is in view. So he's out there just kind of grazing around or whatever, and something comes over, picks him up, takes him to an unknown location B. The unknown location B is where the animal's drained of blood and then cut up. And then it's put into location C. Now, it's location C is in close proximity of location A. It's not exact. It could be 50, 60 yards away. And I had two cases where I know exactly where the animal was picked up and obviously where it's found. So I was able to measure roughly 40, 50 yards. So it's pretty close. So for whatever reason, They grab the animal from one location, they do whatever they need to do, and then they give it back to the rancher. And you're thinking, well, why wouldn't they give it back to your rancher? Well, now I wrote a blog years ago called, to think like an alien, you would have to be an alien, assuming aliens are doing this. All right. And so since we can't think like an alien, we have no idea how an alien thinks. So I kind of like to think about, okay, someone steals your car, but all they want is the engine. So they steal your car from location A, they take it to location B, take the engine out, and then they bring the car back because it's registered to you. It's in your name. It's your car. They're giving it back to you. Hey, here's your car. They don't understand you need the engine to make it run. Type of thing. So basically, they take the animal and then they use what they need out of the animal, and then they give the animal back to the rancher. It's kind of interesting because it's almost like infantile type of thinking. But once again, it's kind of hard to understand. Now, when I come to a mutilation case, the animal where it's placed, I know for a fact that the animal didn't struggle. It wasn't struggling to try and survive while it was being killed. It's placed. There's absolutely no movement in the dirt or the mud or the different place in the snow where I've done some investigations in snow where you just take your hand and just place your hand in the ground and don't move it, and nothing's moved around it, right? So that's what it is. So they're placed there. They're not dropped. And I'll tell you what. Now, you get the Linda Moulton Howells and the Christopher O'Brien's back in the day would say, yeah, helicopter, they just drop them. No, they don't drop them. The reason why they don't drop them is kind of look at. So if you take this pen and you drop it, you see the pen move? Okay, it just doesn't come down and stay like that.
Right.
This is what happens with the mutilation. It comes down and just stays. So there's just no moving. So it's placed. It's picked up and it's placed back down. Now, depending on how, in my opinion, depending on whatever apparatus or craft or whatever is placing it back down, maybe depending on the elevation, the distance from the ground to the craft, it may have to exert more energy to put the animal back down, because some of the animals, the inside, the backbone is completely broken away from the ribs. The hips are broken, or the collarbone is broken when it's already on the ground. So it came down hard, but there's no movement. So absolutely no movement. Okay, so that's number one, where you're looking at that. Number two, of course, the strange cuts. And the cuts are kind of random sometimes, but a lot of cases, if it's a milk cow, the udder is cored out. So whoever's taking this likes that. Sometimes it's cut around here, and people go, well, why is it cut? Well, scavengers won't go here because there's no meat there. The anal area sometimes is cored out, but that's, for me, it's an iffy, because I know scavengers go into the anal area because there's very soft tissue there. So they go in that. But when you see the cuts here on the side, the only thing that's there is glands, saliva glands and other glands. So some of the areas where they're, in my opinion, where they're picking areas to cut is maybe there's glands underneath and they're getting samples of the glands or something. Okay. So in one case, there was a hole here, and internal organs removed. I know of a couple of cases where the hearts collapsed that I've seen, which tells me, and one of them was a calf that I actually took to the laboratory, to Colorado State Veterinary Lab. And when they did a necropsy on it, the heart was collapsed, which tells me that the animal was bled out. Every sample that I had taken to Colorado State University, where I do a pie cut. And a pie cut basically is you would have a cut like this. It's kind of hard to see. So I would do a pie cut. So this part right here is the anomaly. This is the cut, right? And so I want them to look at this anomaly part. So that part I would take in, and they would look at it, and every case was, okay, it's cut like a scalpel cut, number one. Number two, there's no hemorrhaging, which means it was no bleeding when it was cut, meaning the animal was already dead. And when I first learned that, I felt better, because the poor animal wasn't being cut up while it was still alive. And over the years, I had learned that they're bled out first, then they're cut up. and that's why there's no hemorrhaging there along, the anomaly cut. So then you have the strange cuts. I've taken radiation. I've never picked up any type of radiation from the animals. I always check that to protect the rancher, his family, and my team originally, to make sure there's no radiation there. I have picked up high levels of electromagnetic field. One of the animals that had a cut here on the side, I picked up very, very high levels, twice the Earth's magnetic field. The meter was pegging over 100 microteslas. It's 50 microteslas is the Earth's magnetic field. So, it was double the Earth's magnetic field. I contacted the lab. Well, that's the name, one of the names of the lab. I'm not supposed to mention the name of the company, but the name of the company that created the tri-field EMF meter that I have, and talked to one of the engineers there. And he told me that it appears that I was picking up residual electromagnetic fields, meaning something of high energy caused that cut. And it was such a high energy that it left a residual EMF or EM, in the skin. And then the EMF meter picked it up. And I've seen that on the ground. I've seen that on animals. And then sometimes the animals are lying in a round ground depression. Not every time, but it happened a couple of times. I finally had to buy a drone back in the day, so I could fly above it and look for that. And I would take soil samples inside the circle and then outside on the test. And then I would send it to a lab and just say, compare A and B. I wouldn't even tell them anything about it. I didn't want to. I didn't want them to predetermine. I just say, what's the difference between A and B? Tell me. And A was always the cations or the nutrients, or what makes the soil soluble is less near the animal than away from the animal. And what would cause that? Well, I've been in the microchip industry for years, and I know high electromagnetic fields, which is high frequency radiation, can dry out, right? Because it's the heat too. So you can actually manipulate the soil, make it less soluble. So here we go again. High energy field causes the circle, causes the EMF coming off. So we know there's an energy source doing this. And it's not only just mutilations, but we've picked up, and I say we because other investigators have picked up electromagnetic fields from UFO sightings too. So it's really, really cool stuff. Scary stuff. Not only cows, I've done horses, goats, dog. I've heard about elk was interesting. I investigated 116 elk in New Mexico, but they weren't cut up. They just died. So there's some interesting things going on out there.
What do you think the purpose of the aliens doing this is, if it is indeed aliens?
It's different over the years. When I first started getting involved in cattle mutilations, horse mutilations, where the Dulce papers that came out from Dulce, New Mexico. Dulce, there's a base in Dulce, New Mexico that it's still there. And I investigated it when I was doing my one episode, The Paranormal Highway with Unexplained Files. I went to Dulce, and I would talk to the Native Americans, and the Native Americans in that area would say that it's an alien human base. Some of the residents would say it's just a human base, but they both said it's a base there. There's a secret base. So it didn't matter the details. I knew there was a base there, and that was a Dulce base. John Lear had talked about that, the Dulce papers, and that was the stuff that came out a long time ago. And at the time, part of the papers had talked about where someone that was working in the base that released the information for the papers to be generated said that they saw the aliens floating in these vats of blood. That they don't have a digestive tract like this. It's like osmosis or something where they suck in, what they need through their skin. That was what originally was going on around 25 years ago when I first started getting involved. Yeah, more than that actually, the Dulce stuff, and then since then, hybrids came in. So So there was the second theory is the blood is being used for hybrids. Now, cow blood is very, very similar to human blood. During World War II, the military was considering using cow hemoglobin or bovine hemoglobin uh, for soldiers in the battlefield because you don't have to, pints of it just to give it to the soldier, get them to, to the medic or the Red Cross to give them human blood. And because you don't have to refrigerate bovine hemoglobin. But the Red Cross in the U.S. was so efficient that people were donating blood. There was plenty. They didn't need that. Someone who told me who was in Vietnam had heard that that the Vietnamese were using bovine hemoglobin on the battlefield because they didn't have the Red Cross like we did. Now, in vitro fertilization, when the medical industries first started doing that, fertilizing human eggs, they were practicing with bovine hemoglobin because it's that similar to human blood. And the medical industry said, no, you're not going to make human babies with cow blood. And so they drew the line and says, you wait till you are advanced enough to do in vitro fertilization using human hemoglobin, not bovine. So we know that it's pretty close. Now, but animal mutilations happen with other animals too. So I don't know. All I know is that the cow bovine hemoglobin is very similar to ours. So if we could use it for in vitro fertilization, maybe whoever is taking it can use it to create hybrids. And alien hybrids has been around for a long time. The whole MIB thing, not the movie, but originally, people would say, okay, the MIBs look more alien. They look like they're aliens. That's what MIBs are. And then it was MIBs are alien hybrids. And then MIBs are, government agents. But I could be all three.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
We don't know. They're just, I can, I've dealt with the human MIBs. The agents. I've talked to them directly, so they are, in my opinion, they are the MIBs, but they work for our government. But there could be MIBs that are working for the aliens too. But then why more blood? Because it's always blood. Blood is the common denominator in all mutilations. Always the blood's taken. But people go, well, the blood no, it doesn't. It doesn't ease out because depending on the breed of the animal, it could be 6 to 10 gallons of blood. And when you see large gaping holes in the animal, there should be blood pooling. Now, I'm usually, some of my best cases, I'm there within 24 hours. And you should see, if the blood pooled, you should see stains. You should see stain marks on the hide if it was a predator, a mountain lion that went after the animal. You don't see any of that. You don't see blood splatter anywhere. It's perfect. The only stains you might see in the blood, if it's there for a while and it's during the summertime, is the moisture in the skin and the muscle tissue starts to, come out, kind of ooze out. It dries. It's part of the drying process. And then you'll see some of those stains. So there should just be blood everywhere. It should. And matter of fact, one of my, I think I've done 55, 60 blogs on cattle mutilations alone on if you go to my website, and you'll see a little tab on top that says cattle mutilations, and you can click that, you can see all the blogs that one of them I showed pictures of animals that were killed by predators, and there's blood everywhere. And then you look at a cattle mutilation, there's nada. So you have lack of blood, you have no movement, sometimes you have high electromagnetic fields, you have strange cuts, you have no way of knowing how the cuts were made. And then on top of that, you have second and third generation ranchers that have no clue of what happened. It's scary for them because they've seen animals. Tom Miller, who I've done 12 of his 15 mutilation cases, he knows when one of his animals, is sick or dies because he's had to put him down. But when you see a mutilation like that, and it's an unknown to the ranchers, and now I was a city boy starting off, and so I rely on the ranchers.
We're going to go to break here in 4 seconds. Chuck Zukowski, we have until the top of the hour on Spaced Out Radio. And if you want to know a little bit more about Chuck, I highly suggest you go over to his website, ufonut.com. ufonut.com. There's information there. There's details. There's research, all sorts of reports, even YouTube links to videos and TV shows he's been on. Chuck Zukowski, we have him until the top of the hour right here on Spaced Out Radio. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott. All right, we are clear. I love having you on, Chuck.
Hey, if I'm talking too much, kind of give me one of these like cut or something, because I get on a roll sometimes, and I apologize for that.
My job is to let you speak. I just steer.
Well, you got some good questions though, and I want to make sure I get your questions answered.
Oh,
so I don't want to, say, hey, hey.
You're the guy with a couple of alien skulls on his wall or in his office.
Yeah. What you don't see is the giant alien on the wall there, the alien skeletons over there. This is the alien guy here. And then upstairs, I have two 6-foot gray aliens, animatronic gray aliens. And then the alien from the movie. God, I just drew a blank. Oh my gosh. Movie. What the hell? I can't remember the name of the movie. Anyway, that one. Mars Attacks. So I have a Mars Attacks alien upstairs too.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So my last office in Colorado, it was a little bit bigger than this one, and it was just inundated with too much stuff. So I had to cut back. Well, this little office in Texas, and behind my monitor, in the corners is a lot of my go-to gear, and then I have a shed in the back with like 3 or 4 boxes of other gear that I've used from ghost investigations to cattle mutilations to all kinds of stuff.
What's your go-to?
Well, the go-to bag is sort of like what I was telling you, that the Star Team bag, where I've got EMF meters in there, night vision camera, game camera, black lights, digital recorders, stuff that if I got to go real quick, I just grab it and go, and it's got what I need there.
Got to have the backpack.
I had a backpack. Well, this is a backpack, but this is a 5'11", like a rough sack backpack. I had to go bigger. And then I have another 5'11" duffel bag that I take with me too, that has extra stuff in it that I need, gloves, bags for samples, sample containers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It gets crazy. The cat mutilation stuff, I always had my garage in Colorado because in there, I have other things too inside there that large, construction tapes to major areas. And my other bag too, you have the thermometers, to check temperatures. And I think I have the camera. It's cool with mutilation cases. I've used auto technology, where the camera that you stick inside a cylinder of a vehicle to look inside the cylinder.
Yeah.
Yeah. Use that to look inside a cow. What else do you got? They don't have those, so you gotta look inside.
I run a ghost tour at my local museum.
Oh, nice.
To help raise money for it. And my one case has 11 K2 meters in it.
Oh yeah.
It's got my ghost candle, my ghost box, my FLIR, my laser grid.
Oh, I got a FLIR too. That's right. Yeah.
And a REM pod. My backpack, my go-to backpack, has a compass, 4 flashlights, noise enhancing headphones, 2 radiation detectors.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You need a Geiger counter. You never know.
Yeah, binoculars.
Yeah. Binoculars, night vision binoculars.
I got to get night visions. I don't have those yet.
Yeah. Mine are night owl. They work pretty well. They don't record because they're old school. But I have a Psionics Pro.
We got a Psionics
4.
too.
Yeah. So I use that because that works out pretty well. I
Yeah.
use that a lot. And it's easy too because you can just throw it in your cargo shorts or your cargo pants.
All right, we're coming back in 15 seconds. Hi, Applesauce in the chat room. Thank you to T-Bone ×2, Walter, Matthew, K17, Mickey, Kitty, and JSCO for the super chats. Second half of the show is kicking off in 3 seconds. Here comes the second half of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. We are very much in charge of tonight's UFO conversation. So keep up with us because we're going to continue it right now with Chuck Zukowski, his website, ufonut.com. Chuck, thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you. Hey, I was looking at some of the chats and I saw one that says anything happened with mutilations, poltergeist activity. Most of the stuff that I've seen with mutilations have to do with UFOs, although there was a case where it was in an area where there was like poltergeist stuff. So, but not mostly. Generally, it's just kind of unusual areas. I also noticed in your chat, and I'm sorry that you guys are going through fires right now, right? Up in that area. You got a lot of.
We got some big fires going on right now.
Yeah, when I was a deputy, I worked the Hayman fire in Colorado. Giant forest ranger started the fire. Can you imagine that? The one person, like it's like Smokey the Bear starting the fire. And the one time, and I'll get off this, but the one thing that really, I'll never ever forget this, is I was with another deputy and we were heading way back into the woods towards the fire to make sure that people's houses and cabins were cleared because the fire was coming that way. And it's late at night and all you see is headlights, right? And off in the distance, the large flame or glow, and we're headed that way. What was scary was to see all the animals run past us. Like Mother Nature is saying you're going in the wrong direction. I've never seen that. It was like a cartoon. You just see all these animals, and they were all together. It didn't matter, I mean, I didn't see a bear or mountain lions enough, but it was just, and they were just passing us, getting away from the fire, and I just got a chill going. We shouldn't be here. I think I was more scared there than I ever was from any other UFO investigation or Bigfoot investigation at that point. Yeah, it's a scary thing. Sorry about that, guys.
It's happened here.
Yeah,
not multiples, but definitely like in my area where I lived. I live right on top of the mountains. I'm kind of in between the Cascade Mountains and the Rocky Mountains.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
And at this time of year, when the smoke gets really bad, when we do have forest fires, you do see the animals encroaching on areas. So the people around here are very cognizant about it, at least, where, they'll put out notes. Hey guys, if you see the animals running, it's just that they're not used to the territory. They're running away from the fire. Just keep your kids inside, keep your dogs inside, or your cats or whatever. Just let them have the ground right now. And people around here are pretty good with that. So hopefully a lot of the animals made it out.
Yeah, that's good.
Matters.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I just wanted to throw that out there. I feel for you guys.
Absolutely.
I've had to work 2 fires, and my son worked a fire too when he was a deputy. So.
I do have some audience questions for you.
Okay.
This one comes from Terry.
Hey, Terry.
Back when you were telling the story in the first half hour about your mom seeing the grays, when did that happen?
Oh, that is such a cool story. And it took a while for her to finally fess up. Now, as we were growing up as kids, she would tell us about some of her dreams where she had these dreams that she was floating through the house, from one section to another. And she, we were open about it, but it wasn't until I got involved in UFOs that I realized, oh no, really? Now I know what was going on. So she lived in, and you can look this up, the town, it's called Morenci in Arizona. It's outside of the town called Safford. Matter of fact, if you're into to jewelry, Morenci turquoise is still hard to get, but it's a good turquoise. And my uncle actually worked at the mine. So she lived in Morenci. They had 6 kids. Her mom and dad had 6 kids. So she, it was 3 girls and 3 boys. Interesting though, that when she got married and had kids, she had 3 boys and 3 girls too. So that was kind of interesting. But she was the youngest, and they didn't have a room for her, so they put like a small bed in the hallway outside of her mom and dad's bedroom, and that's where she slept. Well, it happened a couple of times where she woke up and she saw, and she says, they little people running around inside the house. And she goes, "There's little people." And I go, "What'd you do, Mom?" And she goes, "All I remember is I covered my head, little people." And that was, and she talked about that a couple times later on as I was a lot older, that she finally decided I was mature enough to tell me. Now I'm in my 20s and she tells me. So yeah, I think it was. And then I talked when I started getting more involved in this, and my aunt contacted me, my niece, or not my niece, my cousin talked to me that my aunt has got a story for me. And they were traveling from like Long Beach to Arizona to Safford, Thatcher area, back in the day, and before the big Interstate 15. And so they're traveling on a highway. And back in the day, when you traveled, now, we can do 6-7 hours in a car, but back in the day, maybe the top speed of your car was 55. I have for all you Canadians out there, I have a 1957 Pontiac Laurentian. So I'm right there with you Canadians, man. That's my mistress. I've had her for 5 years, and she's in the garage, and I love her. It's a 4-door Laurentian. Just love that car. There's only like 5 in the US and 50 in the world. But so, and it only does 55 miles an hour, maybe 60 if I'm lucky going downhill. So I can understand what my aunt was saying, that that at night they're traveling, going to Arizona, and back in the day you would pull off the side of the road, off the highways, so the driver could get a couple hours sleep and keep on going. But you would pull off on a dirt road to get away from the highway where it's safe, and you would turn all the lights off. And that's what they did. So my uncle Roy was driving, and he turned the lights off, and my aunt Petra was, and she was on the driver's seat, and then my 3 cousins in the back. And sometime in the middle of the night, she looks up. Gotta be scary and heck. There's an alien head staring right at her from the window, outside the window. So you're in the passenger seat, you look over, and there's an alien head looking right at, and there's one right behind. And I go, "What happened, Auntie?" And she goes, I saw that. And the next thing I remember, we were driving. But she saw enough, or it was one right there and one behind him, they were standing there. And that's an area of in between Interstate 15 going to Blythe, I guess, which is just all desert out there. But this was a long time. This was back in, I think, in the 60s when that happened. So both my aunt. Now, people talk about abductions where if you're abducted as a kid, you may be abducted a few more times, or they may visit you later on. And that was the case, I think, with Betty Hill. I think she had one last abduction or visitation before she passed away, based on what her I don't know if it's her niece or somebody was talking about, that was talking about it. So it's really interesting, abduction cases. But so now that's the answer to the question about how my mom got involved, and then my aunt. So maybe there was something there from childhood.
All right. Next question comes from Goblin here. Do you think the Hills, Benny and Barney, were really abducted?
Oh yeah, big time, big time. And I'll tell you why. Because it's the early 60s and they're a mixed racial couple, which is perfect and now, and no one bats an eye. But back in the early 60s, it was an issue. And for them to come out publicly and say that this happened was that was like, that was a big deal back then. And then with Betty Hill, under hypnosis, she was able to describe what she saw as where the planet the Greys came from, and then Zeta Rectuli or whatever it was. And it was interesting at the time. Our star charts didn't cover that, but a couple of years or so later, with the new catalogs that was coming out, based on her testimony, somebody was able to actually pinpoint where she was talking about, the actual planet configuration and star configuration that nobody knew about a couple of years before. So how would she know that a couple of years later, when the star charts were updated, the star catalogs were updated, that it would mimic exactly what she saw, when she was abducted. So yeah, very much so. I think there's so much evidence there that 100%.
Next question comes from Whistling Mike, who actually gave testimony as a whistleblower to Congress behind the scenes. And he is asking, whatever happened to Chuck's story that went to a book becoming a movie? Sony, I think. Did I miss it?
New Line Cinema. I'll tell you what happened. COVID happened. Yeah. So it was pretty cool. The book came out. It was interesting how that happened. So when I was doing a real quick little 15-minute segment, Unexplained Files Season 1, at the end of my segment, it was on cattle mutilations. I whip out my paperwork and stuff and saying, these cattle mutilations I've noticed are happening along this 37th degree latitude. And not only here, but in Missouri and other places. And then there's bases and all kinds of other stuff. So this is something I got to look at. And that show was for the Science Channel. And after that aired, the Science Channel, someone, a representative from the Science Channel, contacted me and said, hey, what's this deal with this 37th degree latitude theory you have? And I said, well, I think something's going on. I think there's this paranormal highway going across the U.S. They said, do you have any data? I go, yeah, tons. And so I just dumped a bunch of data on them. Now, this is the Science Channel, not, sci-fi.
Right.
So they're a little different thinking. And they came back going, you want to do your own episode? We got cleared for season 2. And I'm going, I get my own episode? She goes, yeah, you get your own episode, 1 hour episode, do whatever you want. I'm like, kid in a candy store. So,
no kidding.
Yeah, so I did. And so I did that episode. And when it aired, a guy named Bo Flynn from Flynn Pictures Production, who does all the Rock movies or does a lot of the movies for The Rock, he saw the episode, and I was over in San Diego doing a contract, and I get this call from this lady. He goes, I'm secretary to Mr. Flynn, and he would like to talk to you. And I'm going, who's this guy? Well, Bo Flynn production company, Flynn Pictures Production. He called me and he says, hey, I saw your clip. This would be a great movie. I'm going, okay, really? Okay, well, I didn't know. And he said, but we have to get a book written about it so I can get a script written from the book. I'm going, is that the cart before the horse? Okay, all right. So then he's good friends with Ben Mezrich, who's already had a couple of books that went to movies. One was about Facebook and one was about MIT people breaking Las Vegas. He says, so I'm going to have Ben, a friend of mine, write the book. and then I'm going to make a script from the book. And I said, oh, okay, great. I guess, this is all like new to me. So I worked with Ben Mezrich, and the first draft of the book went to Simon & Schuster, and it was supposed to come out in June, and they said, this is good stuff. We want to come out in September for holidays. So give me another chapter and a half. So Ben had to write another chapter and a half. It came out in September or whatever it was, and then it was a New York Times bestseller for a couple of months. When that was happening, when that first came out, New Line Cinema, then right before the book came out, they purchased the rights for a movie. New Line Cinema did, and New Line Cinema is run by Warner Brothers. That's why I've been kind of watching this whole Paramount thing with Warner Brothers. So then, okay, great. So they bought the rights to that, and then I got contacted from New Line Cinema saying, or from Bo Flynn says, okay, we got a writer, and all I can tell you about the writer is this guy wrote a movie for Robert Downey Jr. So he's not like some Yahoo. This guy is a professional writer. And he flew into Colorado Springs, and I took him. I go, you know what? I'm going to take you some places, because for me to understand what I need to do, I need to see it physically. And I say, you need to see this too. If you're going to write this thing, I want to make sure you start off on the right foot. So I took him. He met a rancher where there are mutilation cases. I took him to some UFO hotspots and stuff.
Right.
And he, I guess they don't do that, but I guess they just interview you and go from there. But I let him see firsthand. So we had a script written. There were some changes made, and COVID hit, and that was the end of that. And I haven't heard anything since. And since COVID, the movie industry has been like in the toilet, except for Spider-Man. Oh my gosh, Spider-Man hit $1 billion. It's doing really, really well. So I'm hopefully, that'll get people back to the movies. And maybe they'll do something with this.
T-Bone's asking, what's your thoughts about regression, especially when it comes to abductees?
That's a really good question, because I forget his name. I'd met him. He did regression hypnosis. Oh my gosh. He was in Wyoming, and I met him in Colorado, and he wanted to regress me because he seems to think that, there's something there. I think it's plausible. I think it works. There was a couple of abductee cases that I was a part of where the abductees under regression. I know that the person that's in charge, they got to be good at it. Not anybody can do it. You got to make sure you don't lead the witness. You have to make sure that, same thing with polygraphs. You have to make sure. That's why polygraphs kind of work and kind of don't, depending on, with Travis Walton, he did like 6 of them, so it doesn't matter. But if you have a polygraph done, if they can mislead the answers with the questions, that's why it's unadmissible in court here in the U.S. You can do the same thing with regression, but if you got someone really good at it, I think they can pull information out of you. So I think it's a good thing.
All right. We got 6 minutes to go. Chuck Zukowski from UFOnut.com is our guest. Let's go over to, let's see, Jules here. What other living things have been found anomalously mutilated? Have there been any people recently?
Oh, I should have. Yeah, there was one case outside of the U.S. years ago that had all the ear marks of a mutilation, and the guy's face, the body, the whole bit. I've heard a couple of cases. I've heard of one in Canada that was years and years ago. Now, you have to understand with humans, though, that it's different from animals, because when a human is found dead, we're talking a murder now, right? And so depending, and I don't really know a lot about the Canadian system of courts and law enforcement. I know how it is in the U.S., but I do know that that some murder cases they leave open, and you can't get all the details. So the information I got from Canada was um, secondhand from an investigator in Canada, somewhere around the Alberta area, where I guess your police, are they still mounted police? I don't
Yeah,
know.
we still got the Mounties. Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess that's who it was. Saw the car off the side of the road at night and flashed the light in there, and there was a lady that was slumped over the steering wheel, and just assumed she had died. And they got into the car, and it looked like she just died, like maybe she had a heart attack. Well, when they did a necropsy on her, or not necropsy, autopsy, necropsies on animals. I apologize. When they did an autopsy on her, her chest was kind of cored out, and not kind of, it was. So it was very similar to a mutilation case. This is the only one I've ever heard of out of all, the years I've been doing this. Was this one case in Canada. There was another case in Tennessee, but we don't know if that was a mutilation or a Bigfoot, because it was in an area where, if you don't ever shoot at a Bigfoot, if you think you see it, don't shoot at it. My gosh, you won't live to talk about it. But there was a case that we think happened in Tennessee, but I'll never forget the one in Canada, because it was there was void of blood. There was no blood anywhere on her clothes. Just had this gaping open wound. And I tried to get more information out of that, but the case was blocked. The guy I was talking to, my contact in Canada, couldn't get any more information. And I would understand that too. And even if I did, I could never go talk to the family, because this is not an animal.
Right.
This is a relative. This is the mom. This is a sister. This is somebody. And I want a UFO guy's going to walk up. Hey, do you think it was aliens? No, I can't do that. So, but those are the only couple of cases I've ever heard of. Out of all the cases I've ever done, personally, no one's ever been hurt. Sort of.
We got time for one more question. We got about 2 minutes left.
Okay.
And I want to get to, let's see, B. Mora here. Do you know why at least one cow was found on the top of a barn?
I don't know about that case. I mean, I investigated two cases where a cow was over a fence, and then another case where a cow was found dead on top of rocks, like it had been placed on the rocks, and one was placed over a fence. I really don't know about the barn one.
Well, let's just sneak this one in then from T-Bone. What's your thoughts on the Estes method for paranormal contact?
I am not familiar with.
Oh, you got to try this. Blindfold, take away your sight, noise canceling headphones plugged into a radio signal, and you get a person to ask questions in real time. You can get answers.
Oh no thanks. I'll tell you why. Okay, first off, I enjoy doing ghost investigations. But at one point, I decided years and years ago, I was going to learn how to remote view. And I spent 2-3 months training myself to remote view. And I was towards the end of my training to remote view. And I looked up and I saw Hat Man. And that ended that whole thing. Now, look up Hat Man. And you'll know who I saw. And I don't like going there.
Don't blame you.
It's scary.
Tell everybody where they can find your website and your information.
Just ufonut.com, the UFO Nut guy. You can find me there, or you can just Google Chuck Zukowski, but Zukowski is kind of hard to remember. So just UFO Nut. And if you have any questions, you can email me right on the top of the webpage. Just email Chuck, and you can just email me there. And I answer all my emails.
Well, we appreciate you coming on Spaced Out Radio, Chuck. We definitely need to do this again. And I want to say a big thank you, not only for your long tenure in this field, but for keeping the UFO information alive at ufonut.com. Really appreciate you. Coming up next on Spaced Out Radio, we have Swamp Dweller with a spooky story. Then Grant Baker will step in for the UFO report. Some interesting stuff there to get to yet.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
Thank you, my friend.
Oh, thank you very much.
I hope you had fun.
Oh, I hope I didn't talk too much.
No, you were great. I'd love to do it again. I really would.
Well, I'll be here. I'm not going anywhere. Okay. Hey, thank you very much. All right. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Stop now! You're under arrest! Hands up! Don't move!
Don't get caught without your Spaced Out Radio merchandise. We have t-shirts, mugs, hoodies, socks, hats, stickers, and so much more. Whatever you're looking for, we have you covered. Why just be a fan of the paranormal when you can look the part? We don't have ugly merch, folks. Check out the Spaced Out Radio store. Find the link in the description below.
Dirty filth. Dirty filth. Dirty filth.
Object is heading north 045 degrees. It's definitely not a plane. It seems to be tethered to something. Is that a banner, Joe? Caribou Con. Does anyone know what Caribou Con is?
Caribou Con, one of the BC Caribou region's best-kept secrets. Until now. Join our panel of renowned paranormal experts for a weekend of fun and intriguing presentations. Go to cariboucon.com to book or inquire now.
Over here. Look at this.
Discover Spaced Out Radio on all your favorite platforms. We're live every single night with the best in UFOs, cryptids, paranormal, and the unexplained. And you can find us on all your favorite platforms. Head over to Instagram for behind the scenes and daily weirdness, TikTok for quick mind-bending clips, Facebook for community discussions, and X for real-time updates and hot takes. Wherever you scroll, Spaced Out Radio is there. So go search Spaced Out Radio on every platform, hit follow, and turn on notifications so you never miss a single episode. The Weird is waiting. See you there.
The McNeil House is one of several buildings at the 108-mile heritage site said to be haunted by spirits of a time long forgotten. But would you stay the night? Along with guided ghost tours and paranormal investigations, Haunted 108 is offering a chance to spend the entire night inside the historic McNeil House by booking one of our B&B style sleepovers, where you can experience the hauntings firsthand, meet the resident ghost cat, and witness unusual activity. If you dare to turn history into a night you'll never forget, book your spot now at haunted108.com. Spots are limited. Will you be brave enough?
Thank you. As we get ready to bring in Grant Baker, the Grantavious one is what they call him.
Yes, sir.
Who they are, we don't know, but it works out.
Yeah.
Works out. How you doing, buddy?
Good. How you doing? Made the biggest mistake of my life today.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a minute.
Oh, this one's just funny.
Let's start with story number 2. Then we'll get to story number 1 that I sent you. Okay.
You got it.
25 seconds. Thank you tonight to Pam Harris, T-Bone times 2, Walter, Matthew, K17, Mickey, JSCO, and Kitty for the super chats. We greatly appreciate your support. We also greatly appreciate everybody who's given us a thumbs up tonight. It helps with our algorithms and gets us a little bit bigger traction on YouTube. And here we go, everybody. This is the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you very much for tuning us on in, wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Swamp Dweller and the UFO Report coming up momentarily. But first, we want to say hello to all of you listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Skirine. Skirine is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night, right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's head to the swamp.
Hello and welcome to Spaced Out Radio's Swamp. I'm Swamp Dweller, and tonight I'm going to take you on a mystic journey of the unknown, sharing tales of monsters, legends, and nightmares. Welcome to the Spaced Out Radio Swamp. I'll never forget this experience I'm about to share. It was the night of August 14th, 2021. I was fishing at the local river with my friend in a suburb of Minneapolis and St. Paul, Minnesota. We loved coming to this public park to fish because it was quiet, and there was a nice sandbar to fish. In addition, this park had a Sioux burial mound about a half-mile from our spot. After fishing for a better part of the day, we decided to leave at dusk. To get back to our vehicles, we had to take a trail through the woods, which was about a 5-minute walk. I put up a clip-on light on the bill of my hat so that we could see the path. When I first glanced down the trail, I remember seeing 2 circular white lights that I assumed were fireflies at first. Once we got further down the trail, we were close to the area where I had seen the quote-unquote fireflies. Then I saw a pair of eyes that were either highly reflective from my light or glowing white. It wasn't long before I could make out a body. Its body was substantial. It was on 4 legs, more significant than a wolf, but unnaturally skinny. I couldn't make out any facial features at first, because its eyes were bright and I wanted to warn my friend. All I could manage to say was, there's something there. We had no choice but to proceed because this was the only way back to our vehicles. This thing just stared us down, but didn't make a sound. The closer I got, the more I noticed it looked like a deer. My friend noticed it and tried to yell at it and try to scare it away, but it didn't react at all. I yelled at it as well after they did, and it responded by mimicking my voice. I honestly questioned myself and thought I imagined things, so I yelled at it again, and it responded at the same volume, same pitch, precisely in my voice. So, at this point, we realized this was not an animal. We continued the path in silence, but I maintained eye contact with the creature. I felt like this thing was ready to attack us at any given moment, but it just stood there, staring at us. Eventually, we were out of the woods, and I could no longer see the glow of its eyes. We made it to our vehicles and felt a sense of relief. I asked my friend, "Did you hear it talk back to me?" She said that she did, and it sounded just like my voice when it responded to us. If she hadn't heard the voice, I would have assumed I imagined it. We went over what happened, and our stories were the same, except for what we thought was the shadow of the creature. I thought I saw some sort of deer. They thought they saw some sort of wolf. After our experience, I had a friend who took us to see a shaman. The shaman believed it was an evil spirit and cleansed us. The experience still shook me up for a long time. My friend was pretty shook up for a few weeks as well. I tried to hire a spiritual advisor online, but when I described the incident and asked for spiritual cleansing of my own, it just said that there was none available at this time. At the advice of one of my friends, I burned some tobacco and said a prayer that the entity would hopefully leave me alone. From what I know, skinwalkers are part of Navajo culture, and I'm not sure that's what this was, but it does check more of the boxes than any other supernatural being or cryptid. I don't know much about not deer, but it is like what I witnessed as well. I'm not entirely sure whether it's a not deer or something else. Either way, I was absolutely terrified.
Thank you, Swampy, for another spooky story. If you want more just like that, head on over to YouTube, type in Swamp Dweller, hit subscribe, ring that bell. Thousands of stories for you to listen to each and every night, so make sure you check them on out. And once again, make sure you hit subscribe. From the swamp to the stars, we have Grant Baker. Here comes the UFO report.
The sky, Grant's got the stories breaking through. What hidden now comes into view. From distant lights to secret clouds, mystery tracks of mountain miles. It's the truth revealed. Every signal slowly peeled. So tune in close, don't miss the facts. UFO facts, we've got your backs. Mr. Radio becomes a song.
All right, buddy. We got you had some interesting things happening today.
Oh, yeah.
What happened?
Oh, well, so your good old buddy Grant decided to take a motorcycle ride, and it was getting a little bit dark, and I saw it before I could slow down to get out of its way. And usually they don't hit you, but this bat was determined to get the biggest bug I've ever seen in my life, and he got it, swooped out of the way, and I was doing about 35 on my little motorbike, and he tagged me in the left or the right shoulder. And I went home, contemplated life, ate a sandwich, texted my wife and said, I just hit a bat with my shoulder while I was riding a motorcycle. And she goes, okay, I'll see you when you get back from the ER. 4 shots. And I get another one tomorrow and 2 more after that in the consecutive weeks. So yeah, that was absolutely amazing. And on my way back, I found that I had left my garage door open and the lights on, and we have these things called midgies, and there's billions of them here, and they're attracted to light, and they only have a 24-hour lifespan. So tomorrow I get to clean up 1 million unfortunately unalived midgies in my garage and sitting on top of my classic cars. That was great. It's been a great day. How was yours?
Not as eventful as that, but I will say this. Went out to Flight 21 on the weekend, and it was myself and my buddy investigator Brian, former Canadian military. And from the moment we got there, dude. Okay, well, let's reverse a week. Okay, let's go back in time a little bit. A week ago, we were about 4 miles away from our location. And I stopped my vehicle and I went, I don't think we should go in tonight. Something's not feeling right. Don't think we should go in. I said, we have a choice. We could go in. I'll go in. Not a problem. Or we could go trail hopping, looking for some new spots for hunting. He goes, you know what? Let's go trail hopping.
Yeah.
So that's what we did. We go back to our area this past weekend. And I'll tell you, man, from the minute we got up there, it felt weird. It felt very, very weird. My gifting site was destroyed. Okay. Literally destroyed. Like some animal went in there and probably that damn squirrel. Okay. That damn squirrel. But here's the weird part, Grant. The area where I had my one trail camera set up, which was the closest to the gifting tree, the hole was filled in and matted down.
Something was there.
I don't know what was there. Okay. I don't know if I mean, I can't see a squirrel using its tail like a beaver paddle. Okay. and knocking the dirt, filling the dirt out, but it literally cleared out everything of where I put my trail camera. The rock was gone that I usually leave. And this rock is a big rock. Like it's a heavy rock. Okay. It weighs about, 7-8 pounds. Got rid of that. That was gone. The hole in where I would stick my trail camera in for balance was filled in. I don't get it. It's not a high traffic area.
So did they take the trail cam as well?
No, because we pulled the trail cameras out due to the forest fires. They were coming that way. So we pulled them out for 2 weeks. Right. And I'll tell you, Grant, it just did not feel comfortable. The trail cameras are back out there right now. But the entire time, and then in our parabolic microphone, in the bushes, you could hear this very quiet grrr a couple of times.
Yeah. No, I'm good. No,
I'm telling you, it was not a comfortable feeling. And the best part about it is, and we'll talk to Robin Haynes about this tomorrow night, because before and after, every time I go in there, I check with her. Okay. She called it perfectly. She goes, when you're driving in the left-hand side of the trail, that's where you were feeling a lot of the tension. And I'm seeing that there were about 4 of them in that area, and they were not happy. And she goes, it's not that they were upset with you guys. It had nothing to do with you guys. She said it was like they were waiting for something to happen. Like there was going to be a brawl in the forest. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, man.
Yeah.
They were just holding off so they didn't have spectators.
I don't know what was going on. We were only out there 2 hours. And at about 8:45, 9 o'clock, I looked at Brian and I'm like, we need to go. This does not feel right. And everything in my intuitiveness is telling me we need to go.
Yep.
And dude, it was so creepy there this past Sunday. We didn't even set up our lawn chairs in our camp.
Oh.
Okay. We kept everything in the backpacks and ready. So that way we could throw them in the vehicle at a moment's notice and get the heck out of there.
Yeah, we call that the heebie-jeebies is where I'm from.
Yeah. No, it was weird, man. It was weird. But I'll be stupid enough to go back this coming weekend. Of course I will.
Swallow an air tag before you go.
Right? Let's get to some UFOs.
Oh, absolutely. So we got one of the headlines is really interesting. It says Skywatcher didn't vanish. It went dark for the government. Dun, dun, dun. Cue the minions. Jake Barber's Skywatcher team, co-founded with James Fowler and Alex Klokas, ran its final public field ops in Sierra Blanca, Texas in July of 25. They used electromechanical dog whistle signals and psionics summoning to track 9 UAP classics like Tic Tacs, jellyfish, manta rays, eggs, and more. That's a lot. I didn't know we can call that many in. By August of 2025, Fowler had left. The group's last ex-post came on Christmas Day of 2025, and then silence. It's something we've talked about before. Ross Coulthart sources say that Skywatcher was already feeding data to NASA, the DoD, and the CIA. Now, the same technique appears inside a classified U.S. intercept program at White Sands and near the Mexican border. Temporary flight restrictions hit the exact Sierra Blanca zone months later. The February 2026 El Paso airspace shutdown, initially blamed on cartel drones or a balloon, is tied by sources to anomalous craft. President Trump is said to have authorized the effort. Craft have allegedly been downed, but public disclosure remains thin. Private methods for calling NHI, or non-human intelligence, are now in government hands. What happens when the summons becomes the hunt? Ooh. So this is kind of really neat. I actually like that last one. You know, it summarizes what some people would call a conspiracy, but I call it a narrative, which is circulating in the UFO, UAP, community regarding private research groups like Skywatcher, and it's an alleged absorption into classified government operations. That's basically what they're all saying here. But there is narrative elements, formed by Jake Barber and James Fowler and Alex Klokas. Skywatcher was a private team using a combination of these, dog whistles is what they're calling it. And it's a conscious-based protocol, or the psionic summoning, CE5, kind of like a Greer step, to attract and track these UFOs in field locations, specifically like Sierra Blanca. In fact, it's been done on Mount Shasta as well. Then you get the transitions here and stuff, but you got to kind of break this down, and I'd like to hear your opinion on it as well. But the way I wrote it out was there's you got your facts and you have your speculations. And for when Skywatcher is actively and in public, private groups are attempting to initiate these contacts via like radio frequencies or CE5 protocols, and they're documented subculture in the UAP space. And there's also several prominent researchers, including journalist Ross Coulthart, and they frequently report on alleged corporate, private to government UFO, UAP tech transfers. I mean, we've been noticing that forever. That's nothing new. The airspace restrictions, though, is really interesting how that corroborates, and the timeline, how they kind of match up exactly. TFR is near the U.S.-Mexico border and around military sites like White Sands, and that's a missile range for anybody that's wondering. Those occur routinely for defense operations like drone surveillance and border monitoring. They have, they do all kinds of stuff out there. Connecting these specific flight shutdowns to quote unquote summoned non-human intelligent relies on like unverified insider claims rather than public radar or telemetry data. But we do know that they did shut down during those times that they claimed to see these things.
Here's where I don't think it gets so much to the summoning aspect, but this is, another one of these victories for us here at Spaced Out Radio.
Yeah.
Okay. Another I told you so coming at you. And look, I'm not saying this to be a jerk or anything like that. All right. But here's the thing. The UFO community needs to be very aware when all of these pop-up groups come in. And one of the first things they will say publicly when they see the UFO world getting excited about them, they say, hey, we're not part of the UFO world. We're doing scientific research. Basically telling the UFO world, the public, and everybody who's excited for them to shut up, let us do our work, and let's get going. Okay, stay out of our way. And that's what happened. We also know that they were very much wanting a government contract. That's what they were going for, which is why they changed all the names into their own pseudonyms. Okay, like for instance, a Tic Tac, or which was already named, but they started changing the names of all of these aircraft styles to their own satisfaction. Like there was one that they called the Octagon or something, or the Hexagon or something along those lines. They had a name for the triangles. It wasn't triangles. It was something else. They had a name different. Pardon me?
Is it the TR3 or TR something?
Well, no, that's a government name, but
I gotcha.
But they changed the names of all the UFOs. Then what they did was they started talking about psionics, because CE5 was to Dr. Greer and summoning was to UFO. Woo. So they changed the name from summoning to psionics and make it seem like we as a UFO community should be impressed with what they have learned through telepathy and consciousness and everything, when it's been being done for years. I've done it myself. I was doing it in 2014, inviting friends over to my house to summon in UFOs. Okay. And it's real easy. You could pay the $3,500 or $2,500 a weekend for Dr. Greer, but I can tell you how to do it and exactly how they were doing it for free. And yet, because we were part of the UFO community, we didn't know what we were talking about. So they create this psionics crap, which is exactly the same. They take full credit for trying, like it was almost like they were trying to sound like they invented it, which they didn't. Right?
They couldn't have invented psionics. Psionics was actually invented during the Cold War. If you want to know exactly what psionics means, it's standing for Studies in the Operational Negative of Insurgence and Counter-Subversion. That's the real acronym for psionics. And I actually had to look that up just now because I remembered that. And I just wanted to know what the acronym meant. But you're right. You're absolutely correct. I live I'm in with sight distance of Mount Shasta. And Dr. Greer's been there multiple times, and I've never gone out there because if anybody wants to go out there, I'll just invite Dave over and we'll just take a night trip over there. It gets a little cold.
But here's the other thing too. Okay. There had been people playing with this dog whistle for a while. They took full credit for that. Then what did they do? They have a public spectacle about it, which wasn't so public. They go to 29 Palms in California, which flies secret craft like Area 51. And they were like, oh, look what we've psionicked in. Really? You're in a test range. Why not go to somewhere in Wyoming or North Dakota or Oregon or Washington State or even up in Canada where I live to do this? Okay. Then, after all that is said and done, they go silent. Their partners start to leave, and it's because we all knew they were getting into a government contract. Okay. Now, the scary part about it is, let's just say that they brought this psionics to the table. Okay, Carl Crusher's been working with the whistle a long time. It works. The dog whistle experiment works. Okay, but if they are going to be using it to try and shoot down UFOs, I don't think they're going to have much luck. They'll get the UAPs. It's pretty easy to shoot down a man-made object rather than an alien object.
This is Spaced Out Radio. Your host, Dave Scott.
I never liked Skywatcher. Was never a fan. I knew it. I knew that they were pulling this bullshit. Pardon my language.
Yeah, you're good.
Right. And this is I have to be careful with what I say because a lot of people take what I say and they misinterpret it as whining and complaining. I'm not. But many people who tell the story of the 2017s, the 2017s think that this is all new. And they don't want to listen to the old school ufologists to learn that this stuff has been around and people have been doing it forever. Forever.
Yep.
I even called Jake Barber out on it on X one day.
Oh.
Right? I said, you guys act like you guys have invented this when psionics, aka summoning, aka CE5, has been around a long time. And he admitted. He admitted it. I was proud of him for doing that. But the UAP crowd, okay, that's a nice beard comb you got there.
Thank you.
The UAP crowd, they don't understand that this has been, a lot of these things have been going on for a long time. Okay. And I understand why. They're new to it. This is what they've seen. They haven't done their research into the history of it all. And look, I'm not the best historian at all. There's a ton more I could learn.
Me too.
But if you couldn't see through the government contracts to know that they were going after a government contract, your first clue, just like Tom DeLonge with TTSA, one of TTSA's biggest mistakes was they bit the hand that fed them, which was the UFO community. Okay? They bit the hand that fed them. They said, we don't want anything to do with the UFO community. But hey, we'll take your money as an investment. You're not going to get anything from it. Right? But that's what they do. That's what they do. And it was replayed with Skywatcher. It was replayed.
Yep.
So I wish the UAP community would wake up and see that the old timers in the UFO community, they still know what they're talking about. At 9.5 times out of 10, they're right.
Yeah.
They're right. And they see through the shenanigans of what is going on because they've been played before. This isn't the first time. It's been played. Oob loves his aliens. He loves them. Anyways, it just kind of bugs me. You know, you get all these groups, they come in and they're going to change the world of ufology or U-apology. And in the end, they're just playing for a government contract. They don't give a shit about the experiencers. They don't give a shit about ufology. They don't give a shit about the history or the people involved and the brilliance of people involved, or just the everyday experiencer who just wants to know why they're being taken, why these things are happening, why all of a sudden, you know, their house is haunted and they're seeing strange things all the time in their home, and their kids are now getting taken and having things happen. Okay.
Yeah.
They don't care. They're all about the 6-7 figures that the government contract will hand out. That's what they want. It's terrible. Shame on them. Shame on any group for doing that. And guys, trust me, I'm a capitalist through and through. Okay? I am a capitalist. Make your money. Whatever you feel like. That's why you never hear me use the term grifter or anything like that. If you got something you wanted to take it, time isn't free. Okay? You can make, if you want to write a book and make money off that, which never happens, by the way, or you want to do a podcast, make money off of that, which rarely happens, by the way.
Correct.
If you want to do all this stuff, go for it. You're allowed an opinion just like everybody else. Thurston Howell III, how are you? Thank you to Deborah Rooney, Pam, JSCO, Kitty, Mickey, K17, Matthew, Walter, and a double shot from T-Bone tonight in the super chats. We love you, T-Bone. Thank you very much. And who else jumped in here? I don't know. River Dogs, how are you? Here we go. Here we go with the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Let's bring in Grant Baker for the UFO report. Skywatcher getting the government contract. One thing that, I think the UFO community, Grant, really doesn't understand is a lot of these so-called government people who have retired, they're out, but all of a sudden they get this idea that, hey, we could go look for UFOs and maybe see where it goes for the betterment of the world. It's always about the betterment of the world. And what they're really trying for is the betterment of their pocketbook in a government contract. And that seems to have what has happened with Skywatcher here, Grant.
There is a little bit of lack of data when it comes to this, but if you just use a little bit of common sense, deductive reasoning, in my mind, I conclude that you're on the right track with that. And it's kind of a sad thing. It's spanging for money at the taxpayer's dollar and saying you have whatever it takes to get these things done. But like you were saying previously to me before, it's for the betterment of the world. Well, you know what? The betterment of the world doesn't see what you're doing. You're hiding it behind paywalls, or you're hiding it behind black budget programs. Come on. That's not bettering the world. You're just draining the pocketbooks and putting it into your own wallet.
Right? Good point. Good point. We got to continue on because tranche number 5 came out this past Friday with very lackluster results. And UFO newbie, Dr. Phil, pretty upset about it. Grant, what went on?
So for anybody that's been hiding under a rock, the fifth tranche of quote unquote declassified UAP documents released under the PURSU, for anybody that doesn't know what that means, that's Presidential Unsealing and Reporting System for UAP Encounters. It contains 41 new files spanning government agencies, including Department of War, FBI, CIA, State Department, Executive Office of the President. Unlike previous drops, that relied heavily on thermal video, this one relies more on detailed eyewitness testimonies, intelligent reports, and sensor logs. There's a few of them in there that are kind of interesting. The Gulf of Oman, there's an AC-130 gunship encounter. That was September 8th of 2021. It was a AC-130J gunship conducting live fire exercises. And what they said is they saw or observed roughly 25 cold orbs flying between 250 and 1,300 miles per hour, up to Mach 1.7 at low altitudes. The objects demonstrated active sensing and reactive tactics. They had a targeting flare that was dropped into the water. 2 orbs popped up and hovered next to it. When the crew opened fire with the main cannon, the orbs instantly bolted, flying in formation and maneuvering aggressively. These are the things I'm going to say that highlight this. They also had what they call a thermal anomaly. Sensors, classified them as cold, which rules out conventional combustion propulsion or aerodynamic friction heating, expected at supersonic speeds, like, the edges of the wings or any edge thereof at those speeds will get hot. There was also a 500-foot triangular craft over Afghanistan in 2002 called the Bagram. Eyewitness accounts from military pilots described a massive, silent, unlit, equilateral triangle-shaped object floating around, measured roughly 500 feet or 150 meters across. It was much larger than the largest known aircraft, which is the Stratolaunch Rock at 385 feet. It cruised steadily from west to east at a relatively low speed of 77 or 150 knots, while completely blocking out the stars overhead. We've heard about this before. There was an Avi Loeb one here. This is kind of a medium-based one. Electromagnetic effects, physical anomalies, and this is documented. If you want to look at it, it's FD302. There was a time discrepancy during a documented UAP encounter. An analog clock suddenly jumped ahead by 20 minutes relative to 2 digital clocks reading 1 a.m. instead of 12:40. The persistent offset points to localized electromagnetic interference affecting digital circuits while leaving mechanical gears unaffected, rather than gravitational time dilation, or someone just blocked out that time. There was also a high altitude commercial sighting. Multiple pilots reported document persistent bright white lights appearing at high altitudes between 3 a.m. and midnight. I've seen this before. I've talked to many pilots that have seen this. They're always usually in the same location, which is really, really interesting. But the frustrating thing with the research community, such as yourself, over these releases, and this one in particular, boils down to a core, like a critique summarized by prominent researchers. Data alone is not disclosure. While the sheer volume of declassified files looks impressive, on paper or especially on this website, researchers or technical analysts, they view this as a document dump. And it raises more questions than what it answers. There's zero context. There's no analytical intelligence involved here. There's poor media quality. And it's just, there's a lot of what I would call like heavy compression. I mean, you have technical analysts in the community that are really crying out right now about the video quality is one of the biggest ones. I mean, there's several featured clips like the Gulf of Oman, the AC-130 footage. There's cell phone screens recording of FLIR monitors, or they're heavily compressed digital files. I mean, it's just recycled and historical filler. Ugh. This one gets me. This one's upsetting. You have a lot of skepticism. There's a lot of it when it comes to government intent. The whistleblower funnel issue that we've been dealing with, because there's executive directives. They lifted the non-disclosure restriction for military personnel reporting, UFO encounters. And these witnesses are still required to submit their disclosures through the exact same defense channels that controlled the information previously. So we're not getting everything. And we as a community, most of us advocates, we're arguing that this acts as a filler rather than true open disclosure. The list goes on. This thing is... that's the reason why I highlighted the AC-130 gunship with the thermal logs, the signature inconsistencies, the 500-foot triangle. There was one over Colorado Springs. That was October 23rd. You know, where there's a former Pentagon staffer, he documented a silent 300-foot black triangle that appeared semi-transparent or shrouded in a visual distortion field, kind of like a shimmer, you know, if you're looking through water, before pitching vertical and accelerating way. I mean, you get some cool stories, but there's no proof. There's nothing. It is a literal dump of just information that doesn't really give us much.
No, you're very correct. Once again, very disappointed that we have stories once again that are composed with AI digital renderings of it all.
Yeah.
I think that is very disappointing to the public. The public wants videos. They're not going to sit there, the majority of them are not going to sit there and sift through all of the paper information. That's for nerds like you and me to do it. Okay? But on the flip side, people want the videos. People want the photographs of what is going on. Don't tell us about a 500-foot black triangle, because guess what? You and I have both seen black triangles. Where's ours? Where's our report? Now, granted, they don't know about it. I'm being facetious here for a second.
Yeah.
Okay. But at some point, why is their stories, if they're in a military uniform, much more relied upon than, say, Joe Citizen, who's driving Route 66 to Illinois and has a black triangle hovering over top of his vehicle? There is no difference except for the uniform.
Yep.
So I think the tranche is disappointing. And it makes me wonder whether or not these are now being made to throw people off, Grant. That is something that we need to discuss. Is this becoming a red herring for the UFO community? Because, you know, like there was the one video, we've seen this type of video before, where it looks like a cruise missile flying by a ship. Doesn't look like a UFO. It looks like a cruise missile, which happens all the time in the Middle East. And guess what? Oh my gosh, it's a Middle Eastern video. Okay. Or the fact that the majority of those videos came from 2 videos. They were just cut up in different sections, 5, 6 different clips of the same video. So how does that help? How is that being transparent? And look, when we go back to tranche number 1, I was totally excited about it, man. I got up at 5:30 or 5:15 in the morning after going to bed at 1 a.m. to make sure that I was broadcasting on our YouTube channel live for people to have a look at this tranche and to look at the information. And I was proud to do it. I'd do it again in a heartbeat. But since then, it's like having a steak and lobster dinner for your first ever meal.
Oh.
And now you're down to literally craft dinner. Or what do you call that? Macaroni and cheese down there. We call it craft dinner on this side of the border. Right? You don't wish craft dinner on your best friend. Right?
Only my 8-year-old.
It's like mom going to the grocery store and giving you no name brand Raisin Bran. Right? Mom, why couldn't you just get Kellogg's Raisin Bran? Well, this is just the same. And there's like 4 raisins in the entire box. Okay, you might as well have bought me bran flakes and then went to the bulk foods aisle and got me some raisins. Mom, it's the same thing. Right? I mean, it's terrible. It's terrible. And you know what's happening, Grant? People are tuning out.
Yes.
People are tuning out. They're done. Right?
Yeah. Yes, I agree completely. In fact, that mirrors a lot of what Grant Cameron was talking about, or has been consistently talking about. He calls it the managed magic You've heard him say that before. It's a strategic muddying of the waters. And even Grant Cameron argues that the government doesn't just release information to be helpful. It uses controlled partial release to maintain noise and confusion, or a subterfuge or a smokescreen of some type. And in this case, I believe that's exactly what we're doing. Just like other people that we've talked to, I've seen before, they're just playing us. And I've started listening to a few more groups of late where they're kind of on that same bandwagon. Like, what are they doing? Why are we paying attention to this? Because we're starting to look at maybe the fact, or we're guessing at, that they have something much bigger that they're hiding. And we are looking at hey, look at the lights in the sky. Look at these, white hot images, and we have a black dot fly across the screen, or look at these stories, and they're giving that to us because they're getting billions of hits on this website. And so they're centering the attention to this website while other things are actually really going on out there. And I've said this a few times myself, and I'm actually kind of on this train of thought where I think that what we're seeing is the bare minimum. It's not even low-hanging fruit. This is the fruit that it got overripe and is still laying on the ground. And that's what they're using against us, because what's really good and ripe on the tree, a few branches up that we quite can't reach, is where they're at. And they're trying to hide that from us.
Great analogy. We want the juice, man. We want the juice. We are thirsty for the juice. Okay? We want to have a little taste of that juice. Give us some of that UFO juice, man. You look at Whistling Mike, who's in our chat room tonight, former guest on Spaced Out Radio. He came out and talked about what he stated as a contractor, what he saw happen in front of him with what he believes was a man-made craft. That's UAP. That's UAP, man-made objects, UAP. Okay? And Grant, when you're wondering about the big secret, see, when I first got into this field 11 years ago, I thought everything was a UFO. Somebody saw something weird, it's a UFO. I've grown up a lot since then. Not only my waistline and the size of my head, okay, but I've grown up a lot. Right? And I've met some very, very truthful people that are really wanting to say, look, we know there are strange things out there that we cannot explain. But 80 to 90% of it, we know what it is. That's the problem, Grant. The American taxpayer, and I'm going to focus on them, even though I'm Canadian, I'm going to focus on the American taxpayer for a second, because the majority of our audience is from the United States. The American taxpayer has no idea what those trillions of missing dollars has built.
Nope.
And if we go back just 34 years, when Ben Mezrich, the former head of Lockheed Skunk Works, stated we've already got the technology to get ET home again. At that time, they believed they were about 20 to 50 years ahead of what the public sees. Michael Schratt, one of the greatest aviation historians and researchers out there, he believes that's closer to 80 to 120 years, I believe. And if you look at that they are that far ahead, technologically speaking, where is it for us? Where is it for us?
No, man.
And what are they testing, Grant? What if they don't have any crash retrievals, but they're hiding it under that? I remember one person telling me his buddy flew out of a certain base. I can't say which one. Okay. Flew out of a base as a test pilot. Said, well, It's time to go create some UFO sightings tonight. Think about that. It's a joke to these people within the Black Op community.
Mm-hmm.
But there are those that they cannot explain. They're hiding, and what the big secret is they don't want to give up their technology. What if they have anti-gravitics?
I believe they do.
Okay. What if they have a 0-point energy?
I believe they just figured that one out. I think they've had anti-gravitics for at least 50 years. And I think they've, yeah, oh yeah. Yeah. I think the new one is the energy gap, the novel energy that the missing scientists have figured out. There's something big that they figured out, and now they're keeping it close to the chest.
It could very well be, and I think you're right. Right? We got about a minute to go here, Grant.
You want one more?
Before we have to say goodnight. But I mean, looking at this tranche, like, what is there to look forward to in tranche 6?
My expectations are very low. Yeah, I don't even know if I want to waste the time to look at them anymore.
But the problem is we have to.
I know.
The public is relying on us to report on this. The public is wanting us to say, hey, we've done our due diligence. We've looked into this, and this is pretty incredible. But the problem is we don't get anything incredible, except guess what? The exact same thing that the scientists of SCU and other scientists have said that we as a UFO community are too nosy upon. All we want to do is tell stories. Stories isn't proof. Stories isn't evidence, Grant.
Yep.
And guess where we are?
Story time.
We're getting story time from those who said that they didn't want stories anymore. It's a broken train, man.
Yes.
A broken train. It's disappointing, and the public should be very disappointed with what they are being shown by Arrow, by the Pentagon, and by whoever else, the FBI, that is showing this waste of bloody time. Grant, we got to get ready and say goodnight. Thank you for breaking down Skywatcher and tranche number 5. Grant Baker, our UFO reporter here on Spaced Out Radio. As we say hello to Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal, rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on X, hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and Bigfoot Broadcasting Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we're watching beyond the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night, everybody. Oh, shit. Wrong button. I think Oh no.
What'd you do?
Oh my God. I just lost the show.
No, no.
Fuck. What were you thinking, you fucking moron?
I've been called worse by better, but what'd you hit?
I X'd out instead of hitting stop. Oh my God. That just cost me.
Man, I'm sorry.
Fuck.
There's no way to get in back. And that's the recording portion of it.
Yeah, which means it didn't even go to podcast. Oh, it's gone. Good job, Dave. You fucking meathead. Fuck.
Is there a way you can get it off YouTube and like?
No, because the audio quality is terrible.
Oh, yeah. No, StreamYard does not make a recording. It is just a streaming platform that you use to stream to multiple media types like YouTube, Facebook, wherever you want it, Instagram, and it doesn't record itself.
That just pisses me right off. That just pisses me off. What an amateur mistake. Just amateur. Hey, buddy, I'll be right with you.
That's right.
Going on WABC. Good night, everybody. Thank you for your great night. Thank you to T-Bone, ×2, Deb, Walter, Matthew, K17, Mickey, Kitty, JSCO, and Pam and Deboruni. We'll see you tomorrow night. Our guest will be I don't even know. Hold on. Jackie Harmon tomorrow night. We'll talk Bigfoot. Anyways, this meathead is out of here. Talk to you soon.
Brother.